Chapter 773. This heavenly Tao treasure box is made of a special material. I've already broken it many times, but it's still unscathed. It can't be destroyed at all. Devil King shook his head. As Devil King had said, the heavenly Tao treasure box contained the secret to resurrecting the extinct holy beast race. This was enough to prove that the thing hidden in the heavenly Tao treasure box had the power to defy the heavens and change fate, so it naturally wouldn't be easy to open it. In order to open the treasure box, Devil King had painstakingly searched for the password and used his knowledge of the heavenly Tao to find clues in this designated game. Naturally, it wasn't that easy to open the treasure box. The password can be entered countless times, but I don't know how long it is. I've tried hundreds of millions of permutations over the last 1,000 years, but I haven't succeeded in cracking it. Devil King sighed with a despairing expression on his face. Have you tried GCM? Wang Ming asked. Devil King quickly searched through his memories, then replied, I tried this permutation on the 145,236th time. It's not right. Everyone, it was over, this password wasn't right. It looked like cracking the heavenly Tao treasure box was more complicated than they had imagined. Is it a mix of numbers and English? Wang Ming asked. Not necessarily. There might be Chinese or Western cultivation runes, Devil King said. But in all these years of exploring the game world, I haven't been able to crack the complete clue, but I can more or less confirm that this password is made up of English, numbers, and Chinese cultivation runes. Then how long will it take to crack it? Little Silver's face was already a little despairing. He couldn't help but think of the story of Fengxian Prefecture in Journey to the West, where the prefectural governor offended the celestial emperor and was punished with a drought. Only after the chicken ate the rice mountain, the dog licked the flower mountain, and the candle burned through the golden lock would it rain. In some sense, the celestial emperor in this story was deliberately making things difficult, which was no different from the problem posed by the person who had given him this box. If it was just a combination of numbers and English, Devil King might have already cracked it long ago, but there were actually cultivation runes interspersed in it. If he continued to crack it like this, he might not be able to crack it even after 10,000 years. Mr. Beast King, can you describe in detail the appearance of the person who provided this heavenly Tao treasure box? Odd Chua asked. Devil King carefully recalled, at that time, that senior was wrapped up very tightly. He came prepared. The material of the Taoist robe he's wearing is something I've never seen before. My Devil Valley has collected all the resources in this world, but I can't tell what material the Taoist robe is made of. When Devil King said this, Odd Shua and Little Silver suddenly thought of the girl in ancient clothes, whom Wang Ling had rescued from the Kun's belly back then. She was still in a severe coma and was being treated at Immortal Toya's place. The Taoist robe she was wearing was made of a material that she had never seen before. Both Odd Shua and Little Silver wondered if there was a connection between the two. Do you have a specific appearance? Wang Ming asked. No. Devil King shook his head. That senior didn't want me to see his face clearly. That Taoist robe covered his entire body. His face, upper body, and lower body were all covered. Even when I used the sacred king's eye to look at him, I felt like I was in deep myopia. The only thing I can confirm is the look in this senior's eyes. What kind of expression is that? Everyone's curiosity was piqued. This senior has dead fish eyes, said Devil King. Everyone. At Night Chief's headquarters, President Bai took another screenshot, and his grand plan to revive his soul had begun. After imprisoning Night Ghost Spirit Emperor in the Soul Warehouse, he directly revealed his identity to everyone here. He was Bai Zhe, President Bai of Night Chief. Not Night Ghost Spirit Emperor. Everyone who disobeyed him had to die. Now that he had obtained Night Ghost Spirit Emperor's body, President Bai had a 9th-class true immortal body. Combined with the creation spell, his terrifying regenerative ability reached unprecedented heights. As Night Ghost Spirit Emperor had said, President Bai was ambitious. He wasn't willing to spend the rest of his life under someone else's control. Night Ghost Spirit Emperor had in fact already been on guard against this. At first, when President Bai had sought out Wang Ling for revenge, Night Ghost Spirit Emperor had deliberately not organized a fight, which was the best proof. Night Ghost Spirit Emperor's heart was as clear as a mirror. It was impossible for President Bai to be that youngster's match. He had wanted to use someone else to do his dirty work and get rid of President Bai, who was a major internal threat. He hadn't thought that in the end, he would still be one step behind, and the other party would use the hidden power of Outer Dao to seize this opportunity to counterattack. Any new developments? Sitting on the throne inside Night Chief, President Bai propped his head in one hand and stared at the rows of technicians in front of him as he spoke in a low voice. He was investigating everything related to Wang Ling, even if there was no photo, even if there was only the slightest clue. He wanted to find everyone related to Wang Ling, family, friends, and then carry out a full-scale retaliation. Even if he succeeded in getting revenge on someone, it wouldn't be the most painful. He wanted that youngster to sink into an even deeper level of pain. We already have. Lord Night Ghost Spirit Emperor, replied an intelligence technician in front of him. But as soon as the words left his mouth, his expression abruptly changed. He realized that he had said the wrong thing. President Bai had already made it clear before that he wasn't Night Ghost Spirit Emperor anymore, but should be called Venerable White. But because of his long-term habit, this poor intelligence technician still couldn't correct himself the instant he said it, and made a slip of the tongue. Almost in an instant, the entire Night Chief HQ was enveloped in a low pressure. I'll say it again. I'm called Venerable White, President Bai muttered to himself. With just a curl of his finger, a spatial rift suddenly appeared where the technician who had called out the wrong name was. His head was instantly swallowed by the rift. However, at the next moment, a golden vortex appeared at the spot where the technician's head was severed, and the head that had been severed returned to his body. After being resurrected, the technician turned pale with panic. He touched his neck, there wasn't the slightest crack, and everything was as good as before. But just now, it had all been like a dream. He had thought he was going to die, but then he had come back to life. It's too noisy to execute someone for such a small matter. Bai Jia. As the technician came back to life, a very youthful voice rang out in the air. This voice instantly made President Bai stand up from his throne. There was no mistaking it, this was Lord Dao Master's voice. Chapter 774. Before the person arrived, the voice arrived first. President Bai couldn't be more familiar with this type of great Dao telepathy. After he got up, he bowed in a certain direction in the air, not daring to be the slightest bit disrespectful. The next moment, a man dressed in black ancient clothes stepped out of the void. The black ancient robe was a full-length robe that completely covered his face. The Night Chief technicians around him were so frightened that they all got up and bowed. Some of them peered at this senior with their eyes, but unfortunately, they felt that their vision was obscured by a layer of mist and was abnormally blurry. The man stepped out of the air. He didn't do anything, he just stood there, but there was a great majesty about him. The entire firmament seemed to revolve around him, and his every movement was filled with heavenly might. President Bai was inexplicably alarmed. Lord Dao Master, why are you here? No man is a saint, and everyone makes mistakes. Since it was an unintentional mistake, you should be more forgiving. The man said lightly as he slowly walked over to President Bai's side. President Bai didn't even dare raise his head. President Bai, Lord Dao Master is right. Then, the man directly took President Bai's place and sat down on the throne, then exhaled softly. This exhalation made everyone feel like they were bathed in a spring breeze. All of a sudden, everyone here, including President Bai, felt the pressure on them loosen, and they didn't seem so nervous anymore. On the side, Night Chief's third president, Insect Envoy Long Ming, was also secretly shocked. What a big tone, this was a true expert who could actually control pressure so freely, giving off the feeling that the power of heavenly Tao was both benevolent and menacing. When President Bai had returned from the dead and returned to his position, fourth and fifth president, including Long Ming, had been wondering who on earth President Bai's backer was. Now that he saw it with his own eyes, Long Ming's cheeks already couldn't help sweating. It was a good thing he hadn't taken things too seriously and dragged fourth and fifth president along to resist President Bai's hegemony, otherwise he probably wouldn't even have a place to collect his corpse. As an insect envoy, Long Ming had an extremely strong perception ability. The cultivation technique he cultivated was called the jade insect technique, and after cultivating it, he could possess the abilities of all kinds of insects. Many insects had an innate advantage in sensing danger. Long Ming could clearly feel that with his strength, this man could kill him like an ant with just a finger. Although this man looked refined and easygoing, he was a truly dangerous person. Furthermore, he had just heard what President Bai had called this man, Dao Master. Above rank 9 true immortal was the immortal exalted realm. What was the realm of Dao Master? Long Ming admitted that he had never heard of it. There was actually such a person in this world. It wasn't just Long Ming, everyone else present here was extremely shocked as well. 1,000 years ago, I divined that you would have a battle with that thief, so I placed a heavy bet on you. I helped you up. But I've never taught you to kill the innocent. I hope that you'd better be careful in the future. You've only obtained an outer Dao. If the heavenly Dao wants to destroy you, it'll only take a moment, the man said telepathically as he looked at President Bai from the throne. These were extremely cold dead fish eyes, which made President Bai tremble all over. Yes. Your Excellency Dao Master. President Bai didn't dare refute him at all. The difference in their strength was too great. Not to mention that they weren't in the same dimension, this strength wasn't in the same universe at all. I came to find you this time because I already divined your movements, and also wanted to ask you how you felt when you exchanged blows with that thief, the man asked telepathically. In reply to Your Excellency Dao Master, as Your Excellency Dao Master said, this person is a very difficult opponent. Furthermore, when he fought me, he already revealed no less than 1,000 heavenly Dao. 1,000 heavenly Dao. The man clenched his teeth and his hand instantly clenched into a fist as he smashed the armrest of the throne. As expected, it's him. Then what's your next plan? Junior wants to gather the power of outer Dao and get revenge on him, President Bai said honestly. Unless you're the 6th great outer Dao, you won't be his match at all. His strength isn't limited to this. The man didn't go on. Junior has a question, but I don't know if I should ask. At that moment, President Bai raised his head. I know what you want to ask. The man waved his hand. What you want to ask is, what on earth did this person steal from me? Yes or no? President Bai nodded. As expected, Your Excellency Dao Master's foresight is miraculous. Now that things have come to this point, there's no harm in telling you a little. The man narrowed his eyes. There is a domain of the gods in this world called Ninefold Star. Far beyond the Milky Way, in the center of the entire universe, it is a place where heavenly Dao practitioners gather. It was founded by the Dao Master who first comprehended 500 heavenly Dao. Children born on Ninefold Star now have at least 5 heavenly Dao. President Bai was astonished. There's actually such a place. Given your current realm, you're a lofty 9th class true immortal in your world, but on Ninefold Star, you're just a commoner in comparison. The man waved his hand and smiled slightly. In your world, apart from that thief whom I'm now painstakingly pursuing, the person closest to Ninefold Star is that immortal Jin Yuan. I calculate that this person might be able to surpass his limits and ascend to Ninefold Star in his lifetime. Immortal Jin Yuan, President Bai heard another familiar name. Then, according to Senior, the realm above venerated immortal is, above venerated immortal, the number of heavenly Dao is the limit. Above 100 heavenly Dao and below 500 heavenly Dao are Dao immortals. Above 500 heavenly Dao and below 1000 heavenly Dao are Dao masters. If you can cultivate 3000 heavenly Dao, you'll be a Dao ancestor. Hearing this, President Bai already understood a little. Then the thief Senior speaks of, could it be that what he stole was Senior's heavenly Dao? That's right. The man sighed. If I can take back his heavenly Dao, it's very likely that I'll become a Dao ancestor. Unfortunately, it looks like relying on heavenly Dao alone is far from enough to deal with him. Heavenly Tao and Outer Tao aren't compatible, which is why I chose you to master Outer Tao. Although President Bai didn't understand the connection between Heavenly Tao and Outer Tao, he was still very surprised. Is there anyone in this world who is compatible? Such a person doesn't exist, unless it's the founder of our ninefold star, Tao ancestor Wang, known as the Immortal King. This person once merged Heavenly Tao and Outer Tao, but unfortunately, he was unable to balance the power of the two Tao, and died as a result of them tearing at each other. Chapter 775. Tao Master Wang's appearance wasn't a coincidence. In fact, when that Kun Belly girl had first appeared, Wang Ling had already sensed that someone was looking for him. Moreover, the person who was looking for him was definitely powerful. At the very least, he had never seen such a person among all the people he had come into contact with so far. At Night Chief's headquarters, Tao Master Wang sat on the throne. With just a brief look at President Bai, he already knew what the latter was thinking. Contrary to President Bai's expectations, Tao Master Wang's next words directly shattered his grand plan for revenge. You want revenge, and I want to capture the thief. This is a great thing that will bring both of us together. There's no need to involve others, Venerable Wang said. He had repeatedly descended from the ninefold star, using the excuse of inspection to search for the thief who had stolen his Heavenly Tao number. All of his actions had to be kept secret. It was for this reason that Tao Master Wang had developed his number one pawn in the world below, President Bai. This chess piece had to be under his control. If he went overboard and left the chessboard, it would be bad if someone on the ninefold star impeached him. Wang Zhen considered himself a cautious person. In the face of this powerful Tao Master Wang, President Bai was completely infuriated, but didn't dare say anything. After all, there was a huge gap between their strengths. Wang Zhen could see the unwillingness in Baizhe's heart, so he cast a sidelong glance at Baizhe and said indifferently, if you want to inherit the complete power of the Outer Tao, you must be free of distracting thoughts. Otherwise, the 6 great Outer Taos won't be compatible, and you'll be the first to suffer. This is for your own good. President Bai was dazed, completely unaware of the connection between having a clear mind and comprehending Outer Tao. One of them was going to take revenge, and the other was going to catch the thief. After talking for so long, they were actually people with distracting thoughts. However, Baizhe was not a fool. He could see that Tao Master Wang had some concerns. Ninefold Star was known as the God's domain. It must have been inconvenient for Venerable Tao Wang to go down to the lower realm to capture the bandits, which was why he had taken a fancy to him. Thus, Baizhe only thought about it for a moment before quickly agreeing, Tao Sovereign Wang is right. This junior will remember it. Before borrowing the power of Tao Lord Wang to obtain the true perfect power of Outer Tao, he could endure for a while. Now that he had Tao Lord Wang to back him up, he could endure it for a while. Revenge was only a matter of time. As long as you listen to me, you won't suffer any losses. When Baizhe raised his head again, he heard Tao Master Wang Zhen's indifferent voice. It was very ethereal, and seemed to ring out from all directions around Baizhe at the same time. Your talent isn't weak, but even so, you won't be able to touch the domain of divinity for the rest of your life. Therefore, risking your life to gather the 6 heretics is your only way out. However, you must remember this. You must be patient and not the slightest bit noisy. I've seen too many young people like you. They were all geniuses with great potential, but because they were too anxious, they ended up making mistakes. Whether it's the heavenly Tao or the heretic Tao, when facing the power of these laws, we need to be respectful. He could tell that Baizhe was a very impatient person. If he didn't explain things clearly now, there was an 80 to 90% chance that something unexpected would happen in the future. Baizhe fell silent. He wasn't a person who liked to listen to reason, but under Tao Master Wang's patient guidance, he felt like he had calmed down a lot, which was very strange. In fact, this was because when Wang Zhen had opened his mouth earlier, he had cast the great calming spell. This spell could forcibly restore a person's emotions to a normal level. It didn't matter if you were sad, angry, or full of lust. As long as this spell was used, your emotions would return to normal. Even if you had been drugged with a strong knockout drug, it would still be useless in the end. Then does Tao Master Wang have a plan? Baizhi raised his head and looked at Wang Zhen respectfully. Of course I do. Wang Zhen nodded. There's a time limit for me to inspect the world below, but when I was in the world above, I was constantly investigating and exploring. Recently, I got some new inspiration from the new cooks my family hired. Cooks? That's right, the two new cooks are brothers called the Flower Farmer Brothers. They used to farm on the outskirts of Ninefold Star, and were famous for raising spirit rats. Furthermore, they'll find different excuses to eat these spirit rats that have fought, become fat, depressed, beautiful, or in heat. They'll braise them, fry them, cook them, there's no evil they won't do. No evil, won't do. That's exactly what I saw in them. That's why I hired them with a lot of money. I also spent a lot of money to help them publish a book called 100 Million Ways to Cook Spirit Rats. If you're interested, I can bring it over for you to take a look. Whether it's in the world below or the world above, nourishing food is popular now, so learning some cooking methods is actually beneficial and harmless. Baizhi, sorry. I digressed. When Tao Master Wang said this, he seemed to feel that he had deviated a little from the main topic, so he hurriedly changed the subject. Later, when I hired the two brothers, I found out that their ancestors had been raising vicious beasts. Unfortunately, their family declined and they couldn't afford the huge cost of raising vicious beasts, so they sold the farm and settled for the next best thing, which was raising spirit rats. When I found out, I took over a vicious beast farm. I gave it to them to raise. What are they raising? They're raising Kun. In order to cooperate with the two brothers raising Kun, I also specially named this fishery Golden Kun Farm, and hired an experienced farm director, nicknamed Full Metal Shell. Baizhi was surprised. He always felt that this name seemed a little familiar. After that, I used the two brothers' Kun raising skills to start a business selling Kun. And the effect was not bad. The net profit in the first quarter was more than 10 billion. Of course, there were also unexpected situations when raising Kun. In the beginning, some bad breeds of Kun were prone to fighting and killing each other because of mating problems. However, these situations were effectively improved after the intervention of the Flower Farmer Brothers. All the Kun that fought were eaten like those spirit rats before. Chapter 776. A completely new result? That's right. Wang Zhen nodded. In addition to finding what I wanted, my venerable self also discovered a new species of Kun called the Void Kun through this Void Probe. This Kun tastes like vegetables, and is also called Vegetable Kun or Vegetable Void Kun. President Bai was secretly alarmed when he heard this story. Prehistoric vicious beasts were a species that had been extinct on Earth a long time ago, but now lived in large numbers in the world above, and someone had even set up a Kun farm for them. As the saying went, a Kun was so big that it couldn't be contained in one pot, the meat smelled like wax, so it was better to sprinkle salt on it and make it into peppers. This was a very famous short poem which mainly talked about the taste of Kun meat described by an almighty who had eaten it before. It was precisely because of this poem that most people knew that Kun meat wasn't delicious. Kun weren't delicious, but in fact, that was just because they had chosen the wrong species. Because according to Tao Master Wang, there were many different species of Kun, and the Kun he used to fish and explore the space were all extremely poor quality and naturally mutated rotten Kun species. What do you mean, Tao Master Wang? My venerable self has already confirmed the location of the thief, and I plan to capture him in a few days. Wang Zhen took a deep breath. He had been searching for the thief who had stolen his heavenly Tao for a long time. He had even disregarded his family's opposition. All these years on Ninefold Star, he had been unrivaled in the world, but had only lost to one person. The reason for this was that he had too few heavenly Tao. As long as he could take back the heavenly Tao that belonged to him, he would at least be able to fight that man to a draw. Saying this, Wang Zhen raised his hand, and a ball of blue-green light appeared in it. Instantly, it was as if the entire Night Chief HQ was enveloped in a comfortable and peaceful atmosphere, as if the power of nature was being nurtured in Wang Zhen's hand. He was like a man who controlled the laws of nature. It was just a small ball of light, but it seemed to contain the godly power of nature. A few seconds later, this ball of spirit light spread out in the air to form a map with several light spots marked on it. Dao Master Wang, this is. When I used the inferior Kun to penetrate through space to probe, I also found some possible locations where the power of outer Dao might appear for you. You have to collect and comprehend the power of outer Dao on your own. They are the only natural laws that can take physical form. You have to find them and subdue them one by one. However, there are a lot of places marked on the map. You should calm down and look for them slowly. Thank you, Dao Master Wang. This junior understands, President Bai said. Then, with a wave of his hand, Wang Zhen tossed several marble-like magic artifacts to President Bai. These are nomological capture balls. There's a button in the center of each bead, and when you touch it, the magic ball will expand. You need to use these magic balls to capture them. The 6 great outer Daos were like the 5 elements, each having their own counter. You've already mastered one of the most special techniques, the reverse polarity technique. You don't need me to remind you what to do next, do you? Of course, this junior won't let your Excellency Dao Master down. President Bai was overjoyed. As Wang Zhen said, what he had to do next was naturally to snowball with the outer Dao in his hands. The powers of outer Dao each had their own counter. As long as he could successfully collect 2 outer Dao, the other 4 would naturally be under his control. In the end, it was just a matter of time, just be more careful. Patience, patience, more patience. I have nothing else to say. Wang Zhen sighed. To be honest, Wang Zhen was skeptical about whether Baizhi could collect all 6 great outer Dao. Although he had already found a lead on Wang Ling, for some reason, he had a bad feeling about this. But he didn't dare directly return to Ninefold Star in the short term. Even if he couldn't completely carry out his plan on Earth, he still had to take a stroll outside the Milky Way first. Wang Zhen raised his head and stared in one direction in the sky. That was where he had been. At that moment, he could more or less guess that the Lu family on Ninefold Star was looking for him everywhere. Currently, the Lu family was ranked 3rd on Ninefold Star. In order to contend with the Gu family, which was firmly in first place, Wang Zhen's father had thought of a way for him to form a marriage alliance with the Lu family. The problem was that Wang Zhen didn't like Miss Lu of the Lu family. Thus, although he had found clues about Wang Ling in the world below this time, Wang Zhen wasn't really planning on dealing with him. Before Baizhi had completely collected the power of outer Dao, Wang Zhen planned to wait and see for a while longer. After Baizhi gathered his forces and forced the thief to use all his strength, Wang Zhen would then consider whether or not to make a move. So, Wang Zhen's real purpose in coming to the world below this time, it was obviously to find the thief. In fact, it was to escape marriage. Elsewhere, in Beast King's tomb, everyone was still studying how to open the Heavenly Dao treasure box. As Devil King had said, the password to open the Heavenly Dao treasure box was more complicated than they had imagined. If they continued to decipher it like this, even if they worked together for 10,000 years, they still wouldn't be able to do it. So in the end, their only hope was to find a way to destroy this Heavenly Dao treasure box by force. Let me try. In the end, Audiobook stared at the treasure box inside. You? Devil King was doubtful. Then, he saw Audiobook directly kneel down in the air. Lord Jinka, grant me strength. Seeing this, Little Silver and the others patted their heads. They had almost forgotten that in order to protect Audiobook, Wang Ling had already allowed him to summon Jinka when necessary, but only once a day. So when the brown spirit light directly penetrated the air in the distance and reached the tomb, and then directly penetrated the spiritual space, even Devil King couldn't help being startled. What kind of spirit sword was this? He couldn't see through it at all, and for some reason, the moment he saw this brown peachwood sword, Devil King actually had the misconception that he was looking at that senior who had given him the Heavenly Dao treasure box back then. "What's the origin of this sword?" Devil King asked. Little Silver could feel Beast King's voice trembling. As Jinka's #1 fan, Fatty Luo had the expression of a young girl seeing her idol. "Ah! My Lord Jinka! Lord Jinka! Can you give me a good spanking after you're done with this Heavenly Dao treasure box?" But Fatty Luo's words were directly ignored by everyone. "This is my Shifu's personal spirit sword, Lord Jinka." Chapter 777. This was a sword that Beast King had never seen before. Devil King felt a deep sense of fear when he deduced its owner's identity from the spirit sword alone. He said this because he had indeed smelled the scent of this peachwood sword from somewhere before. "Has your Majesty Beast King remembered something?" Odd Chua asked when he saw Devil King's pensive expression. Odd Chua didn't know Jinka's background, but he was one of the few people who had experienced the heavy power of this peachwood sword on the spot. Back when he had faced the Master of Immortal Mansion's intrinsic spirit field, Jinka had displayed the formidable fighting strength of the King of Sword Spirits. In the face of evil sword god, that world-annihilating sword had been even more frightening. Now that things had come to this, Devil King felt that he had nothing to hide. Because everything he had done had been for the sake of opening this Heavenly Dao treasure box. He had struggled bitterly in the game just to find some clues hidden inside. Now that he had seen hope once again in this mystical peachwood sword, it was as if he had suddenly seen some light in the darkness. "I once personally sensed an aura that is very similar to the aura this Lord Jinka gives off," Devil King said calmly. "I don't know if you've heard of a legendary place called the Domain of the Gods." For a moment, everyone fell into deep thought. Although Odd Chua had witnessed a lot of major events in the last few months and had even personally captured a number of big shots, he was still too shallow compared with the people around him, so naturally he hadn't heard of it. Fatty Luo also confirmed this point. Fatty Luo had more than 800 years more cultivation experience than Odd Chua, but this was the first time even he had heard of the Domain of the Gods. "What is this place?" Little Silver asked. "When I was little, I seem to have seen it in my clan's Bible, but it didn't explain it in detail." As soon as Little Silver said this, Odd Chua and Fatty Luo looked over. The Holy Beast clan had long lifespans to begin with. Although this 8,000-year-old baby didn't look mature yet, he really knew a lot of things. Thus, there was indeed a reason why some cultivators painstakingly pursued the path of immortality. After living for a long time, one's experiences were indeed different. Domain of the Gods. Legend says that as long as you reach a certain number of Heavenly Dao, you can ascend to the Domain of the Gods. God Domain? Is there really such a place? Wang Ming was skeptical. "I once revealed the same doubtful expression as you, but after the 4th generation Beast King passed the position of Sacred Beast King to me, I dispelled this doubt. The Domain of God does indeed exist. But it is far beyond the Milky Way," said Devil King. Wang Ming was suddenly enlightened by this explanation. If it was really outside the Milky Way, then there was really nothing to say. With the current level of science and technology, the exploration satellites launched from all over the world could only reach a position of about 100 light-years outside the Milky Way. In order to find Drought's star, Immortal Zhen Yuan had explored the Milky Way beyond the Milky Way for 1,000 years, but hadn't even covered 1/10 of the distance. A venerated immortal would have to live for at least 10,000 years to fly beyond the Milky Way. In order to find Drought's star, Immortal Zhen Yuan had gone back and forth, less than 1/10 of the distance, but it had taken him a whole 2,000 years. If the Domain of Gods really did exist, then could there be people like Wang Ling living there? Actually, this was what Wang Ming was most concerned about. On this trip to Beast King's tomb, Wang Ming felt that he had really profited. At the very least, he had one more thing to work on in his research on Wang Ling's primordial qi. As long as he could invent a magic treasure that could allow him to travel beyond the Milky Way and reach the Domain of Gods in his lifetime, perhaps he would be able to solve the problem of controlling Wang Ling's primordial qi. Rumor has it that the realm above venerated immortal is Tao immortal. But there are very strict requirements for the number of heavenly Tao. Even I'm not very clear on this point. Devil King shook his head. The power of the sacred beast king was passed down from generation to generation. Although it could be passed down through accumulation, after 4 generations of beast kings, Devil King's strength was currently only at venerated immortal level. Although he had more than 20 heavenly Tao on him, it was clear that he was still far from the standard of a Tao immortal. Is there a way to reach the domain of gods? Wang Ming continued to ask. This matter concerned Wang Ling, which made Wang Ming attach even more importance to it. The domain of gods, he felt that Wang Ling and even Jinka's secrets might be explained in this place. Furthermore, Wang Ming felt that after he went back, he had to expand his knowledge once again. For a long time, cultivators on Earth had always regarded themselves as the center of the universe. He thought that most people, including many true immortals, probably didn't know about the existence of the domain of gods. For example, if the 10 founding generals knew that there was an even more heaven-defying domain of the gods beyond the Milky Way, how would they feel? Given their current strength, it would be very difficult for them to reach the domain of the gods, but if those Tao immortals in the domain of the gods had the intention of coming to Earth, Wang Ming felt that it was indeed possible. Then, the problem that arose from this was, were there almighties from the domain of the gods secretly observing Earth now? Chapter 778. When he heard the sound of the heavenly Tao treasure box shattering, Devil King's face lit up with excitement that he hadn't felt in a long time. He never thought that the heavenly Tao treasure box would actually be forcibly broken open. Along with the shattering of the treasure box, a bright and dazzling golden light suddenly burst out from the cracks. It was so dazzling that one's eyes could not see clearly. Devil King opened his Holy King eye as wide as he could to see what on earth was inside the box. But he seemed to have underestimated the aura of the domain of the gods contained inside the heavenly Tao treasure box. That aura was like an invisible mist barrier entrenched inside the box, and the moment the box was opened, it automatically flowed out through the crack. Even with the power of the Holy King eye, it was completely unable to penetrate this golden light. Is it a golden flash? Although they couldn't see clearly what was inside the box right away, everyone had indescribable astonished expressions on their faces. This stance, whatever was sealed inside definitely wasn't something ordinary. Is there really hope for our Holy Beast clan? Little Silver was extremely excited. When he had first seen Devil King and learned that this Grand King of Holy Beasts was still alive, he had been restraining his emotions. Now, his emotions were surging. What on earth was inside? A magic treasure that could defy the heavens and change fate, reverse and change everything? An array? Or a special skill? Or could it be the legendary Wang Jing's fried rice? Little Silver was extremely curious. The golden light from the heavenly Tao treasure box lasted for about 2 or 3 minutes. The light finally disappeared from the broken box, and its contents were exposed to everyone's eyes. The result was stupefying. Because, there was nothing inside the heavenly Tao treasure box, it's empty. Little Silver scratched his head, looking a little frantic. How could this be, tch? Wang Ming raised his eyebrows, as if he had sensed something. Could it be that the thing inside the box can't be opened by force? Or maybe it mutated the moment it was opened. It fell in contact with gold, withered in contact with wood, melted in contact with water, scorched in contact with fire, and penetrated in contact with soil. Could it be like the fragrant concubine in some TV series, who turned into a butterfly and flew away? Fatty Luo said. Impossible. Devil King shook his head and sighed in disappointment. Although I can't see clearly what's inside the box, I'll definitely sense it if something comes out. Wang Ming cupped his chin with a pensive expression. From the current situation, it was obvious that the heavenly Tao treasure box was just a scam. However, since the heavenly treasure box was given to him by someone from the God domain, that Taoist from the God domain must have his true motive. Although Wang Ming still didn't know what on earth their objective was there really a way to revive a holy beast in this world? If there really was one, then what did this empty box mean? After giving the holy beasts hope, he poured cold water on them. Wang Ming was utterly shocked that there could actually be such a pain-in-the-ass person in this world. Or perhaps, all of this was simply to stall for time. Perhaps the sacred beasts really had the possibility of reviving, but in order to delay Devil King from discovering the secret of reviving, they had set up such a trap, trapping Devil King in the game world for 1,000 years to find clues. He had worked hard for 1,000 years, but this was the result. Devil King naturally had his unwillingness, but what could he do even if he was unwilling? That was an almighty from the god domain, he had no choice but to believe it. At the very least, when he had learned that the sacred beasts had gone extinct, it had been this heavenly Tao treasure box that had given him hope and courage to live on when he had almost lost all hope. Perhaps, this was a white lie. At this thought, the expression on Devil King's face instantly became a little relieved. A sacred beast king had the bearing of a sacred beast king. But in comparison, Little Silver looked a lot more upset. He didn't want to believe this ending. The most important thing was that he realized he had been tricked again. Back then, the master of Immortal Mansion had also tricked him into joining Immortal Mansion. Immortal Mansion clearly didn't have a way to cure Miss Xian, but he had foolishly believed in a miracle, and had been Immortal Mansion's hired thug for a long time. He realized that he seemed to have a tendency to be tricked. Where was the most basic trust between people? Look! At that moment, Chua picked up a fragment of the box. There seems to be something engraved on this fragment. Everyone looked over. When Devil King took a closer look, he realized that it was an immortal character. If translated, it was the word king. Do the other fragments have runes? Wang Ming asked. Chua examined all the fragments on the ground, then shook his head. Only this fragment. If I'm right, this rune probably represents the surname of the treasure box's owner, Fatty Luo suddenly said. Why do you think so? This heavenly Tao treasure box clearly isn't an ordinary item. Since it was created, the creator would definitely leave his mark on the magic treasure, which is similar to a signature. But this is a little old-fashioned. Nowadays, most refiners won't sign their names. Why is that? Because once a magic treasure is resold, some resellers will definitely engrave their names on it. If a magic treasure passes through many hands, it will often have a string of names on it, and it's hard to tell who the true creator of the magic treasure is, Fatty Luo said. Fatty Luo said, that's why most weapon refiners now engrave a QR code on their magic weapons. Furthermore, this QR code is designed inside the magic treasure, and the overall material is very special, so it won't wear off easily. Even if someone maliciously covers it, it's useless. This is the most serious anti-counterfeiting mark nowadays. Signatures and whatnot are long out of date. But this also shows that this senior is very old. His surname is Wang. At that moment, Devil King gave the translation of the immortal character. Everyone was stupefied at this result, because they remembered that Devil King had said before that this expert senior had dead fish eyes, and now it was proven that his surname was Wang. If this was a guessing game between friends, most people's first reaction would be Wang Ling. How could there be such a coincidence in this world? Liar Wang. Little Silver grit his teeth, his expression a little resentful. They both have the same surname Wang, and they both have dead fish eyes. Why is the gap between them so big? Little Silver couldn't understand. Everyone, how can you be so sure that this person isn't Ling Jinren? Fatty Luo asked. Little Silver, nonsense, there's no smell of crispy noodle snacks in this box at all. Also, Master's handwriting is much better than his. Chapter 779. This was a bit of a pity for the group of people who had entered Beast King's tomb to explore this time. For Little Silver in particular, this was definitely a big blow. It was easy to imagine how it would feel to have the hope that had already been rekindled. After they left Devil King's mental world, Devil King woke up from its long slumber. Unlike in the past, however, Devil King wouldn't enter the game world again after waking up this time. After spending a whole 1,000 years looking for clues in the game, Devil King was about to throw up. He didn't want to see this game again. Your Majesty Beast King, what do you plan to do now? Wang Ming asked Devil King. I haven't left this place for a long time. The world is so big, I want to go out and take a look. Devil King didn't answer directly, but took out a box studded with all kinds of rare stones and gave it to Little Silver. Young man, although the Heavenly Dao treasure box didn't tell us the secret of the resurrection of holy beasts, it also didn't say that it was impossible for the holy beast race to recover. There's still hope. Little Silver raised his head and picked up the box, looking pensive. Devil King gazed at him. You've already found a very good backer. Open this box when you get back, there are instructions inside. What's inside? Little Silver asked curiously. Holy beasts cultivate very slowly. You're already a 5th-class holy beast at the age of 8,000, which is already very difficult. There's a secret technique inside that allows you to cultivate quickly. But according to the rules of the holy beast race, only holy beasts can see it. Since everyone here is your friend, this king won't avoid suspicion. 1 year later, Qin Lang will come back to retrieve the box. During this 1 year, you must protect the box, understand? All right. Little Silver nodded. After saying that, Devil King looked at the others. The method to the domain of the gods that I promised to tell you is also in this box. After Little Silver finishes studying it, he'll more or less understand. You can discuss it with him in the future. In that case, thank you very much, Your Majesty Beast King. Odd Zhua and Wang Ming were delighted when they heard this. Ah, by the way, can I have one more thing? Little Silver asked at that moment. Actually, this question was for Fatty Luo on the side. What do you want? Devil King's voice was very gentle. 1,000 withered bones. Little Silver didn't mince words, and then turned to look at Fatty Luo next to him. This is a smith who is working on Lord Jinka's scabbard. I need the 1,000 withered bone as a supplementary material. Devil King instantly understood. That's easy. I'll let Qin Lang pick a few good ones for you. The essence of the resources in Beast King's remains are actually in this tomb. Qin Lang has been in charge of managing it all these years. Yes, Lord Beast King. Qin Lang immediately nodded when he heard this. Actually, you don't have to give so much. Fatty Luo was a little embarrassed. You're welcome. Devil King waved its mountainous claws. Lord Jinka solved a 1,000-year-old problem for me, this little favor is nothing. Besides, it wasn't easy to make Lord Jinka's scabbard. Preparing more materials will also increase the success rate. Fatty Luo laughed. Then it would be impolite of me to refuse. Qin Lang was suddenly curious. Doesn't Lord Jinka have a scabbard to begin with? That's right, I don't have one. I've always wanted to make a scabbard for Lord Jinka. Fatty Luo shook his head. Do you have a choice of the main material? Qin Lang asked. Amateus wood, Fatty Luo replied. I don't think that's enough. Qin Lang shook his head. If you want to make a scabbard for Lord Jinka, you'll need wood from the 3 divine trees at the very least. I can provide you with a few sets of Qin wood. As for the Holy Sky tree, as far as I know, after it became extinct in this world, there is only one person who has a small sapling of the Holy Sky tree. But this person is elusive, and very hard to find, whether to give it to me or not is a problem. Who is it? Wang Ming asked. Qin Lang's face was solemn. This person's Taoist name is Immortal Jin Yuan. A few days later, it was August 4th on Friday in the 15th week of the semester. That was the end of the joint summer camp for the remains, and Wang Ming made a dazzling appearance in the domineering, Wang Ling 1, uniform in front of the students. Cries of surprise could be heard from the student group. Damn, who's this person? Wang. Teacher Wang. That's not right. Why did Teacher Wang turn into Iron Man after disappearing? So, were they filming a movie? A lot of students stared at this scene in astonishment. Among the people in the training square, the teachers were the most astonished and shaken. When Wang Ming reappeared with Odd Zhua and the others who had been sent to look for the suspected coordinates, all the teachers, including Wu Zhenjuan, couldn't help gaping. They were dumbstruck by this high-tech magic treasure mecha armor set. "Teacher Wang, are you alright?" "What a joke, how could I be alright?" "Furthermore, after this trip, I successfully comprehended a legendary spell. I combined 2 superior spirit techniques, Lion's Roar technique and One Finger technique, into one." Everyone. Then, in the air, they saw Wang Ming shake his head, and then raise his middle finger at Wu Zhenjuan. "Come here." "Wu Zhenjuan, Teacher Wang, don't joke around." Everyone could see that Wang Ming seemed a little different, but they couldn't say exactly what had changed. If one didn't say that he had become more confident and Chinibu, most of the people here didn't know Wang Ming's true identity. After all the teachers leading the team this time were gold medal teachers from various schools who had been carefully selected by Huaxiu Alliance, and there was no need to doubt their strength and experience. In the eyes of many students, this teacher Wang was just one of the gold medal teachers. But that was the problem. Most of them didn't know that Wang Ming in fact wasn't a cultivator, but an ordinary person. For the sake of Wang Ming's safety this time, the head of state had looked for Wu Zhenjuan before the start of the summer camp. Now, the first thing Wang Ming did after his return was actually to challenge him. As an ordinary person, Wu Zhenjuan really didn't know where on earth Wang Ming got his courage from. Was he accepting the challenge or not? Wu Zhenjuan had no idea at all. He knew Wang Ming's identity, and was even more aware of how much the head of state valued him. Wu Zhenjuan bowed to Wang Ming as he politely declined Wang Ming's request for a duel. "Teacher Wang, since you've already returned safely, this is a joyous occasion for everyone, and worth celebrating." This was Huaxiu Nation's secret weapon, the strongest hidden brain, the only disciple of one of the 10 founding generals, Wisdom Saint President Qi. When all was said and done, even if Wang Ming really was a cultivator and was about as strong as Wu Zhenjuan's, how could Wu Zhenjuan make a move in the face of such multiple identities? The head of state had been secretly observing on the side the entire time. He knew that given Wang Ming's temperament, he would never do something he wasn't prepared for. The head of state deduced that the brand new mecha armor Wang Ming was wearing was probably something Wang Ming had developed on the spot when he had been in danger. Wearing this mecha armor magic treasure was tantamount to Wang Ming having battle strength. It was just that no one knew how strong this battle strength would be. Wu Zhenjuan was the chief instructor of all the teachers leading the team this time, so there was naturally no need to doubt his strength as he had already reached Tier 1 itinerant immortal. Could he really contend with an itinerant immortal with just this mecha armor? Chapter 780. Just like what the head of state and President Qi knew of Wang Ming, he would never do something he wasn't sure of. Thus, the head of state didn't do anything to stop him. For one thing, this could be considered a performance test for Wang Ming's mecha armor, which he had developed on the spot. The head of state was actually very curious about how much this mecha armor could perform, and whether it could really fight an itinerant immortal. Even if it could only withstand a few blows, it could still be considered a major breakthrough, because the person operating the mecha was an ordinary person. In the future, when this mecha armor could be mass-produced, even an ordinary person with a cultivation dream would be able to rely on this mecha to gallop around the cultivation world. This was a new invention that could change the future. On the other hand, the head of state also wanted to take advantage of the showdown between Wu Zhenjuan and Wang Ming to look for that mysterious expert hidden among the teachers. There was still half an hour before the space entrance to Beast King's remains opened. That mysterious person had to still be here. Now that everyone had gathered, the mysterious person had to be here as well. Maybe they could find some clues, Your Excellency Head of State. President Qi's inquiry could already be heard in the head of state's headset. The command center still hadn't received clear instructions on whether or not to stop Wang Ming. Little Chi-Chi, don't worry, my venerable self will control the situation. If necessary, I can make things clear for both of them, the head of state responded swiftly. Wu Zhenjuan didn't make a move, and just raised his head to look at Wang Ming in the sky. He hoped that one of the teachers present could come and smooth things over. At the very least, it wouldn't be too ugly, and both sides would have a way out. But the problem was that no teacher came forward to dissuade him. Because dozens of seconds ago, President Xi had responded to the head of state's command and issued the latest instructions. The command center directly connected the headsets of all the teachers present except Wu Zhenjuan, and asked them not to intervene. Naturally, Wu Zhenjuan was the only one who didn't know about this instruction. After waiting for a moment, Wu Zhenjuan looked a little embarrassed. He took a deep breath and said to Wang Ming in a low voice, "Teacher Wang, it's not too late if you stop now." Wu Zhenjuan was best at music and sound wave spells. While this low roar seemed ordinary, it was also a type of sound wave spell. Bystanders wouldn't feel any discomfort when they heard this spell, since it was only aimed at Wang Ming. Furthermore, he was well aware of Wang Ming's identity as an ordinary person, and had only used less than 5% of his strength. Even so, 5% of an itinerant immortal's strength was enough to make an ordinary person dizzy, and in more serious cases, cause symptoms of shock. He was deliberately putting pressure on Wang Ming so that he would back down in the face of difficulties. But contrary to Wu Zhenjuan's expectations, Wang Ming, dressed in mecha armor, stood steadily in the air and didn't even budge. Wu Zhenjuan only used less than 5% of his strength. Wang Ming smiled. "Actually, Wu Zhenjuan, there's no need to be modest with me. I'm very confident in the magic treasure I invented." Wu Zhenjuan frowned, astonished that Wang Ming actually knew how strong he was. "I've upgraded this armor's calculation ability. Although I can't guarantee that it's 100% accurate, it's still more than 95% accurate," Wang Ming said with a smile. Before Wang Ming had left Beast King's tomb, he had upgraded Wang Lingwan for the third time in the remains. The core hub of Wang Lingwan was now a quadruple core, which was more durable and took less time to recharge. Furthermore, it also had the ability to store energy at the cost of its own life when it ran out of energy. When Wang Ming's quadruple core hub ran out of energy, it could forcibly absorb an enemy's spell and extract spirit energy from the spell to recharge it. But this was a last resort, because it would cause a lot of wear and tear on the mecha armor itself. In a normal situation, Wang Ming could use Wang Lingwan for a week. In combat, it could last for 2 hours at full power. Apart from the core hub, Wang Ming had also upgraded Wang Lingwan's data calculation ability in all aspects. Of course, this was in fact thanks to Qin Lang's assistance. Qin Lang's tree roots could directly explore the outside world from inside the remains, so Wang Ming had asked Qin Lang to let its roots pierce through the void and return to the research institute to take out a spare head of State 001 chip. This chip contained all the cultivation data currently recorded in the world's databases, such as magic treasures, spells, spirit techniques and so on. It was like what old Qi and the head of state knew about Wang Ming. He never did anything he wasn't sure of. "Attack me boldly, Wu Zhenjuan. This isn't a competition, but a performance test of my newly developed scientific magic treasure." Wang Ming was using a roundabout way to hope that Wu Zhenjuan would accept the challenge. He smiled. "I challenge Wu Zhenjuan with such sincerity, if you don't respond in kind, I'll be very sad." Wu Zhenjuan pursed his lips, still hesitating over whether to make a move or not. He suddenly recalled a line from a TV series in which a teenager yelled at a general riding a big horse in front of him, "Soul Tiandi, do you dare dismount and fight me?" At that very moment, this sense of déjà vu was very strong, thus, Wu Zhenjuan was in a dilemma. Because of Wang Ming's identity as an ordinary person, he didn't dare be too heavy-handed at all. What would happen if he injured the brain of this, most powerful brain? That would be the country's loss, and he didn't dare take the blame. But if he didn't make a move now, he would instead look like a coward, which would directly affect this year's ACE teacher assessment. The limit for a gold medal teacher assessment was 10,000 people per year. But there were only 100 ACE teachers. In comparison, the assessment for an ACE teacher was even more stringent, and one had to consider all sorts of aspects. Battle strength was just one of the criteria. Results in leading a class, quality, prestige, students' favorability, and so on. All of these were very important. Thus, faced with this dilemma, Wu Zhenjuan could only settle for the next best thing. Teacher Wang, it would be unfair to you if I fight with all my might. Can you tell me the exact battle strength of your current armor? I can seal away my excess strength to fight you. To everyone's surprise, Wang Ming actually directly waved his hand. Do you know why I chose you, Wu Zhenjuan? Wu Zhenjuan. Chapter 781. All the teachers here breathed a sigh of relief at these words. This was a blatant declaration of war. Although a gap in realms could be bridged with magic treasures, there was usually a limit to that. Saying this was simply inviting a fight. Wang Ming wasn't someone without emotional intelligence, and Wu Zhenjuan knew very well that Wang Ming was deliberately goading the teachers here to force Wu Zhenjuan to fight with all his might. And sure enough, Wang Ming's method worked. The teachers watching from the sidelines were all fired up. Wu Zhenjuan. Beat him up. Take out his screws, let's see what else he can say. Many of the students in the queue also cheered Wu Zhenjuan on. Because Wang Ming's words were too arrogant and insolent. Teacher Wu, go. Don't admit defeat. It's just a crappy mecha armor. Which Huaxiao demolition factory is better? Teacher Wu, it's all up to you. Teacher Wu, go. Use EDM, SKR. Electrocute him with SKR. Most of the students were like onlookers who were always there to watch a good show. Now that the trip to the remains was coming to an end, it definitely wouldn't be a loss if they could see the two teachers fight. This was the finale performance of the summer camp in the remains, and could even be considered a valuable lesson in battle observation. Of course, there were still many students who stood on Wang Ming's side, and most of them were students from number 60 high as well as those who had been forced by Zhai Yin's murderous gaze to support Wang Ming. Can Teacher Wang do it? Little Peanut shrank back at this situation. In the queue, Wang Ling gazed indifferently at the sky, his eyes unperturbed. Most people knew that magic treasures, like these teachers cheering for Wu Zhenjuan, usually had a limit. Although they could bridge the gap in realms, they could never surpass the level 1 level. For example, if a person with a low cultivation base possessed a powerful magical treasure, it could indeed make up for some of the disparity in strength. However, if the person's realm wasn't high enough, it would be very difficult for them to fully display the magic treasure's battle strength. Thus, it was reasonable to say that a powerful magic treasure indeed couldn't completely replace a person's realm. There were a lot of factors involved here, and a weapon spirit was a big part of it. As for how much combat power a magic treasure could display in the hands of a person, the tacit understanding between the person and the magic treasure's artifact spirit was crucial. But a lot of people overlooked one point: the mecha armor Wang Ming was wearing wasn't a cultivation magic treasure in the traditional sense, but a scientific magic treasure. Such a magic treasure did not have a weapon spirit. In other words, their artifact spirits were the calculators. Using high-density artificial intelligence calculations to replace the artifact spirit, it would have the ability to independently judge and learn. In the end, they were successfully rolled into a ball of spirit energy. This wasn't the legendary spirited spiral pill, but also a type of sound wave technique. It was like breathing fire in an acrobatic performance. Wu Zhenjuan put this ball of spirit energy the size of a ping-pong ball into his mouth, and then he opened his mouth wide in Wang Ming's direction. This was followed by a startled, "Ah!" In a split second, a white beam of light burst out of Wu Zhenjuan's mouth. This beam of light was extremely ferocious as it rose up like an azure dragon. For a moment, many teachers and students were deeply shaken. Many of the teachers who were familiar with Wu Zhenjuan could already tell that this was a level 4 sound wave spell. Even an ordinary teacher would have a hard time withstanding the attack of a tier 4 spell. "Teacher, what spell is this? It's so cool," someone in number 60 high's phalanx asked. Old Antique raised his eyebrows. I remember that this is one of Wu Xinjuan's ultimate skills, and it's the first move he learned from irascible Dharmaraja Wu Yifan back then, sky-shattering cry. But it looks like Wu Xinjuan has modified this move and added something of his own to it. Modified what? Can't you see the sparks on this beam? Hearing this, everyone was suddenly enlightened. Chapter 782. Wu Xinjuan's sky-smashing cry was one of irascible Dharmaraja's ultimate skills back then. While they had been bickering just now, Wang Ming had already used Wang Lingwan to analyze Wu Xinjuan's data. Through Head of State 001's chip, Wang Ming could easily retrieve data on Wu Xinjuan's past battles, and through data analysis and comparison, Wang Ming could understand what skills Wu Xinjuan was best at. Sky-smashing cry was an advanced level 4 sound wave spell. This wasn't Wu Xinjuan's strongest skill, but it ranked in the top 5 in proficiency. If it was aimed at a vital point, it could easily kill a nascent soul expert. Through the analysis of the world database, Wang Ling could easily obtain data on all the skills that Wu Xinjuan had already demonstrated to the outside world. Thus, when Wu Xinjuan made his move, Wang Ming swiftly and precisely formulated a plan to deal with him. Many cultivators had the ability to see in motion, which Wang Ming himself didn't have, but Wang Lingwan's helmet had the powerful ability to break down attacks and see through them when they slowed down. In Wang Ming's eyes, the white sung dragon of the sky-smashing cry became very slow, and he could completely turn sideways to avoid this attack. But he didn't choose to do so. Standing in the air, he spread his 5 fingers, and with a crackling sound, it seemed as if electromagnetic waves surged between them to actually form a magnetic shield in front of Wang Ming. The Tsang dragon collided head-on with the magnetic shield, which looked as thin as a cicada's wing. The friction between the shield and the shield gave off endless electric sparks and an ear-piercing noise. But contrary to everyone's expectations, this flimsy-looking magnetic escape was unexpectedly sturdy and perfectly blocked Wu Xinjuan's attack. After blocking this attack, Wang Ming sighed and stared at Wu Xinjuan on the ground with disappointment in his eyes. Only 50% of your strength? Teacher Wang, I think it's better to stop here, Wu Xinjuan said in a low voice. But from what Wu Xinjuan had seen just now, Wang Ming's armor was indeed something. For an ordinary person to actually be able to block a sound wave spell that severely injured a nascent soul cultivator, Wu Xinjuan had to admit that he had indeed underestimated Wang Ming's invention a little. But when he heard Wang Ming's dissatisfaction with him holding back, he was also a little unhappy. Wu Xinjuan, I hope you can take this battle seriously. Otherwise, it would be too embarrassing in front of your own students, Wang Ming kindly reminded him in the air. In the next moment, almost in the blink of an eye, Wang Ming raised his hand and aimed it at him. Wang Lingwan had already automatically locked onto Wu Xinjuan. The blue dragon which had been shot out by the sky-shattering roar earlier actually reappeared in Wang Ming's palm. The moment the cannon cover opened, a white-blue dragon abruptly rushed out and smashed ruthlessly at Wu Xinjuan. For a time, countless curses resounded in the surroundings. Holy shit! Sky-shattering howl. Holy shit! This armor has the ability to learn. Holy shit! Gusumurong. This is shield reflect. It's definitely a shield reflect. This move also gave Wu Xinjuan a fright. Back when the irascible Dharmaraja had imparted this move to him, he had studied it for a long time. The operating formula was rather complicated. An armored machine was able to analyze his sound wave technique? How was this possible? Wu Xinjuan frowned. He was a master of sound wave spells, he knew how to use them, and even more so, how to dismantle them. The best way to stop this type of sound wave spell was naturally to change the medium through which it was transmitted. Most sound wave spells had to rely on air, cosmic stripping spell. Wu Xinjuan shouted in his heart. He quickly made a hand seal, and finally interlaced his fingers to form a square. With a hum, a beam of black light shot out and aimed at the blue dragon in the air. It was another high-level spell. This is... All the teachers and students at the scene cried out in alarm. They saw that in the air, there seemed to be a space that had been peeled away, and it was pitch black. However, this wasn't a space fissure or a space storm, but a spell which had been specially designed to counter sound wave spells. It could forcibly change the medium through which sound could be transmitted, causing the sound wave spell to vanish like a clay ox in the sea, until it finally hit a ball of cotton. Teacher Wang, aren't you looking down on me a little too much by using a sound wave spell to counter me? Wu Zhenjuan mused. But as soon as he said this, Wang Ming's laughter rang out. You've fallen into my trap, Wu Zhenjuan. Wu Zhenjuan. In that black space enveloped by the cosmic stripping spell, a pale white light actually appeared. This light was none other than the white-blue dragon that had unleashed the sky-smashing cry. His stripping spell had actually failed. Wu Zhenjuan had an incredulous expression on his face. This scene had really caught him off guard. Wu Zhenjuan had thought that his move would be able to smoothly neutralize Wang Ming's attack, but the situation was completely out of his expectations. He hadn't expected Wang Ming's sky-smashing cry to actually ignore his stripping spell and shoot straight at him. In his panic, Wu Zhenjuan could only raise his hands to block it. The blast landed heavily on Wu Zhenjuan's crossed arms, and he was sent flying backward, his feet plowing 2 deep trenches in the ground. Teacher Wang's move is really fierce. After being hit by the blast, Wu Zhenjuan finally realized what the problem was. This wasn't the sky-smashing cry at all. Spirit Energy Cannon. Wang Ming quickly replied, this is the most basic move for my armor. I think the attack that hit Wu Zhenjuan just now had a majestic momentum, right? To be able to knock him back so much, it proves that the impact is pretty good. The problem with the Spirit Energy Cannon's recoil had already been completely fixed after Wang Ming's third modification. Now that Wang Ming had fired the Spirit Energy Cannon, Wang Ling 1 would automatically adjust itself to minimize the recoil. Spirit Energy Cannon? Wu Zhenjuan narrowed his eyes. But why? Wu Zhenjuan wants to ask. It's clearly a Spirit Energy Cannon, so why does it look like the sky-smashing cry? Wang Ming smiled. Wu Zhenjuan, do you know about skin? My armor can imitate magic skin, and I thought your sky-smashing cry was pretty cool, so I used it. Wu Zhenjuan, everyone. A moment later, Wu Zhenjuan waved his sleeves and sighed. I thought my stripping spell had failed, but it turns out that Teacher Wang had used a smokescreen to evade it. That blast just now was indeed very powerful, but if Teacher Wang thinks that it's the only thing he can do to me, he's too naive. Wang Ming shrugged his shoulders and sneered. Of course I don't expect a Spirit Energy Cannon at 20% power to do anything to you. Chapter 783. It actually only had 20% of its strength. A lot of people were stupefied by Wang Ming's move. This armor could actually be replaced with the Spirit Power Cannon's skill skin. This was too amazing. Now, most of the people were silent. The teachers and students who had been skeptical about this armor didn't dare say anything. Because this armor indeed couldn't be judged by common sense. Overall, it seemed that Wang Ming still had the upper hand. Teacher Wang's equipment is amazing, I want it too. But does anyone know what realm Teacher Wang was at before he put on the armor? Someone asked. Dopey Guo was blank. For the first time, he realized that there was actually something that he and his uncle didn't know. Say, if Teacher Wang was just an ordinary person and could compete with an itinerant immortal in this armor would simply be a miracle invention. On the side, Super Chen chuckled and rubbed his head. Of course, I'm just joking. Everyone who doesn't know Teacher Wang's realm, don't take it seriously. Wang Ling, the wind on the field changed as a result. It was only at this moment that many students truly realized that learning knowledge could really change one's fate. It turned out that the gap in realm, cultivation talent, and strength could be made up for with knowledge. Sure enough, knowledge was power, this was the true truth. After the first exchange of blows, the teachers in charge of maintaining order at the scene started to have the students sit down to watch this contest between the power of cultivation and science. Everyone, watch carefully and take notes. This is a rare learning opportunity. a teacher instructed them on the spot. At some point, everyone realized that a barrier like that of a martial arts arena had already been set up between Wu Zhenjuan and Wang Ming. This was a barrier created by the head of state, and it was sufficiently stable. A lot of teachers and students who didn't know the situation thought that it had probably been set up by some busybody. But even if it hadn't been set up, the teachers planned to work together to set one up. If Wang Ming's armor could really compete with an itinerant immortal's, then it would be a great battle between itinerant immortals. If a battle between true immortals got serious, it would be enough to destroy a planet. A showdown between itinerant immortals couldn't be underestimated. They were still in the remains, and if restrictions weren't put in place, the remains might be affected. In short, after the barrier was set up, it was now Wu Zhenjuan's turn to have a headache. The meaning was already very clear, he wanted him to compete with Wang Ming. Furthermore, at that moment, Wu Zhenjuan had already realized the profound significance of this competition. Compared to the significance of this competition, his title as an ace teacher suddenly seemed insignificant. Just like many people believed, this was a battle between cultivation and science and technology. Could the power of science really reach the same level as the combat power of cultivators? This was the problem, and the most crucial point was that once Wang Ming's patent was released to the public, it was bound to benefit a large number of people in the future who didn't have any talent for cultivation, but had a cultivation dream. With the commercialized and factory-produced armor, it was possible to be on equal footing with the cultivators who had been training hard for 100 years. For a true cultivator, their state of mind would definitely be affected by the difference. If one were to think further, perhaps in the end, more and more people in the world would give up cultivation and choose to wear this kind of armor. Thus, Wu Zhenjuan understood in this battle. He had to win. Even if it was for the sake of all cultivators, it looks like Teacher Wang is ready. Then, I won't be polite anymore. Thus, Wu Zhenjuan exhaled softly. The next moment, he stamped his foot lightly, and a wheel impressively appeared under his feet. Psychic spell. A teacher immediately recognized the origin of this spell. Wu Zhenjuan was actually using the psychic spell. It looked like Wu Zhenjuan was really going to get serious. Some teachers who knew Wu Zhenjuan couldn't help recalling Irascible Dharmaraja's most powerful spell back then. This spell required the cooperation of a special kind of psychic beast. Thus, the moment they saw the psychic array, a lot of the teachers were intrigued. They couldn't help recalling Irascible Dharmaraja's psychic beast back then. Furthermore, it was very obvious that what Wu Zhenjuan had summoned now was the same psychic beast that Irascible Dharmaraja had summoned. As the psychic array appeared on the ground, a black spring that looked like ink gushed out of the ground, and a few seconds later, several purple lightning bolts emerged from it. Purple lightning? Standing in the air, Wang Ming gazed at the lightning bolts. They were probably going to use their ultimate move. Wang Ming already had a hunch in his heart. What kind of psychic beast is this? Outside the arena, there were still some students who didn't know the truth. Purple lightning. This is Ziwei lightning, one of the legendary 5 Yin thunders, and also the most sinister of them all. It's extremely destructive. To be able to tame a spirit beast like this, its owner must have abundant yang qi in his body. Ordinary people can't tame a spirit beast like this. Old Antique explained on the side. He didn't explain what on earth this psychic beast was, but the atmosphere was already very mysterious. Wu Zhenjuan must have suffered a lot to tame a spirit beast like this. His purpose in summoning this spirit beast is to borrow the power of its purple lightning to complete Irascible Dharmaraja's ultimate move back then. This is a level 6 sound wave spell that Irascible Dharmaraja created, and the conditions to learn it are very harsh. As soon as he said this, the black spring that gushed out of the psychic array had already covered the entire arena. The entire arena was filled with purple lightning, and there was no place to step at all. Wu Zhenjuan had done this on purpose. He knew that Wang Ming was relying on the power of his armor to be able to float in the air, which also consumes spirit power. Fighting continuously in the air would consume even more spirit power. Wu Zhenjuan's battle plan was very clear. Wang Ling 1, activate the omnidirectional magnetic shield. Wang Ming immediately gave the order to have the magnetic shield protect him and avoid being affected by the purple lightning on the ground. He admitted that if he had been wearing the crude version of his armor from the very beginning, he wouldn't have been able to withstand this kind of continuous consumption at all. At that moment, there were new fluctuations on the ground. Ripples appeared on the surface of the black spring. As for the spiritual beast hidden in the black spring, it had finally revealed some clues about itself. It had a large and slippery black tail, and from its appearance, it looked like a fish. Someone in the arena cried out in alarm on the spot. What the hell? Eel? Chapter 784. When the Supreme Een Spirit Beast, the symbol of the five Een Thunder, revealed itself, the students in the field burst out in cries of surprise. Being so close to the scene was like watching a special effects blockbuster up close. Furthermore, it was an omnidirectional surround sound effect, which was incomparably stunning. At school, it was already rare enough to see two Golden Core teachers duking it out. For most high school kids, this contest of strength between itinerant immortals was indeed a rare experience. Wang Ling already knew that after today's competition was over, there would definitely be a lot of students who would write about this in their summer camp diaries. This was a rare, ready-made material, and most importantly, he could fill up the number of words in the diaries. What battle between cultivators? That kind of word count was the best thing to fill up. As long as you didn't run out of words, a few hundred words was enough to fill up a skill. When two people used their qigong skills, they could fill up the gaps with hundreds of words. Wang Ling had seen this kind of routine all too often. Because Father Wang was a very good example of it, there was a saying that web writers were all water, and whether or not a web writer's level could be judged depended on whether the water was happy or not. I've gone off topic, back to the battle. The purple spirit Een eel that Wu Xinjuan had summoned was the one that irascible Dharmaraja had tamed back then. Later, Wu Xinjuan had inherited irascible Dharmaraja's teachings, so this 1,000-year-old purple spirit Een eel had naturally fallen into his hands. But Wu Xinjuan was usually unwilling to summon this purple spirit Een eel. As a symbol of extreme Een, the purple spirit Een eel's tremendous Een chi would be a huge burden on his body. Even with his primordial yang body, it would take him at least a month to recover. And the most important thing was that in this 1 month, he had to have, restrict, desire. Otherwise, the result of his primordial yang leaking out wouldn't just be a simple burden, it would also cause Wu Xinjuan's body very troublesome after-effects. And among these after-effects, the most dangerous was being impotent for life. Thus, when Wu Xinjuan had summoned this purple spirit Een eel, Wang Ming had already analyzed Wu Xinjuan's next move through the world database. This was an ultimate technique created by the irascible Dharmaraja in the past. It was also the only level 6 sound wave destruction spell that required the purple spirit Een eel, Buddhist lightning myriad. Hence, this was a huge test for Wang Ming and the Wang Ling one he had created. Sound wave spells had a great advantage over other spells, and that was their short casting time. After all, some complex destruction spells took a long time to cast and cast. Hence, when the purple spirit Een eel exposed its huge, glossy tail in front of everyone, Wang Ming knew that the real contest had already begun. At that moment, the entire black spring under their feet was this purple spirit Een eel's territory. Using the mecha armor's insight to analyze it, Wang Ming discovered that this purple spirit Een eel was over 100 zhang long and was wreathed in purple lightning, like a flood dragon in the mud. Most importantly, Wang Ming realized that this purple spirit Een eel actually had 3 heads. Against a 3-headed electric eel, any female streamer would have to concede defeat. Teacher Wang, please be careful, Wu Xinjuan said in a low voice as a warning. The 3-headed electric eel had already swum close to him, and then actually soared into the air. Everyone watched as its thick, long, and smooth body coiled around Wu Xinjuan. The air around them surged wildly and the black spring below them surged. In a split second, even the air started to distort as violent purple lightning mercilessly whipped the entire space in the barrier. In less than a dozen seconds after the purple spirit eel had been summoned, the environment inside the barrier had changed dramatically, as if it were the end of the world. The space was squeezed frantically and was almost completely occupied by Wu Zhenjuan. The 30 zhang space that Wang Ming had opened up with his omnidirectional magnetic shield seemed to become the last pure land at the end of the world. A lot of people were secretly alarmed when they saw this. If Wang Ming hadn't opened up his magnetic shield at that moment, what would have happened? Wu Zhenjuan wasn't in a hurry as he slowly walked toward the purple spirit eel's coiled body in the air. Finally, he took a deep breath and brought his mouth close. This time, even those who didn't understand how this spell worked at all could tell that this was a special, electronic version of a loudspeaker. There's this kind of operation. A lot of the teachers were stunned. Although they had long since heard about irascible Dharmaraja's Buddhist lightning combo, they were still frightened when they saw it with their own eyes. To actually use an electric eel's coiled body as a loudspeaker, what kind of amazing operation was this? At the same time, the expression of the head of state, who was secretly observing from a distance, stiffened at this scene. He could almost instinctively sense the danger of this move. Your Excellency, head of state. Old Qi was anxious. He wasn't present, but he knew how dangerous this move was. When all was said and done, Wang Lingwan was just an armor that Wang Ming had built himself outside. There was no way of knowing how strong it was without the use of the official computer simulation data. President Qi was worried that Wang Ming would be completely defeated by Wu Zhenjuan's move. After all, Huaxiao Alliance's logistics department had just returned the coffin that had been custom-made for Wang Ming. No hurry, I'm here. In the end, the head of state shook his head and didn't stop him. Because he didn't sense Wang Ming's panic at all. For Wang Ming, this enhanced version of the electronic megaphone was indeed something he hadn't expected at first. According to the analysis of the data in the World Database, although irascible Dharmaraja had summoned the purple spirit eel back then and combined it with the purple lightning to cast the Buddhist lightning combo, it hadn't been used like this. Wu Zhenjuan had obviously modified this move, and he hadn't used it for a very long time. This was why Wang Lingwan couldn't analyze it. Teacher Wang, you've already lost, Wu Zhenjuan said to the loudspeaker made of electric eels. This wasn't the official Buddhist lightning combo, and was just a normal question, but it had already created an extremely powerful sound wave. Wu Zhenjuan's voice seemed to come from beyond the heavens as it reverberated endlessly in the barrier space, and the ear-piercing sound waves caused many students and teachers to cover their ears. They didn't directly receive this power. Because of the barrier, 99% of the power of Wu Zhenjuan's sound waves was contained within it. Even so, this ear-piercing sound wave was still unbearable for many of the students and teachers present. To them, it felt like a cat scratching at a blackboard. Fortunately, the head of state had set up this barrier himself. If it had been set up by the other teachers, it would have already exploded. Not necessarily. Contrary to everyone's expectations, Wang Ming directly responded indifferently. Chapter 785. Was it a spirit power cannon? Wu Zhenjuan narrowed his eyes and gazed into the air. This was indeed the feeling of a spirit power cannon. He could feel energy rapidly accumulating in the cannon's firing port on Wang Ming's right arm. Teacher Wang wants to use a spirit power cannon to counter my killing blow? That's too whimsical. Wu Zhenjuan shook his head. The next moment, his aura sank. Rumble. The black spring on the ground suddenly erupted as a signal of danger rang out. Wu Zhenjuan is going to attack, the students shouted one after another. The purple spirit eel's supreme lightning swept across the battlefield like a lightning dragon in this doomsday-like dual space, and an earth-shattering explosion shook the entire barrier as thunderstorms erupted everywhere. If it wasn't for the barrier's control, Beast King's remains would have really suffered if this thunderstorm had spread out. The students in this era of peace had never seen such a scene before. Although they clearly knew that this battle was isolated from the outside world and that this force wouldn't affect them, many of them were still so frightened by this momentum that they trembled all over and turned pale. Lotus Sun and Feather Lin subconsciously hugged each other. So scary. Super Chen and Dopey Guo were also scared silly. It's simply terrifying. Wang Ling looked around and saw that everyone nearby looked shocked, so he hurriedly cast a small spell on himself that made his face instantly turn white. To be honest, this scene was indeed terrifying, but compared with the duel between immortal Jin Yuan and Wind's spirit back then, it paled in comparison. A fight between two venerated immortals had almost destroyed a planet. So in comparison, Wang Ling truly felt that this kind of battle was nothing. But he didn't want to look like he was the only sober one in a drunken stupor. In this kind of situation, it was safer to go with the flow. It wouldn't be good if he aroused suspicion. Thus, Wang Ling cast the turning white spell to make his face look extremely pale. He even did his best to secrete a few drops of sweat. In the end, when Super Chen came back to his senses and looked at Wang Ling, he was startled by his face. "Oh my God! Are you okay?" The people who had been watching the battle on the side were distracted by this cry, and they all turned to look in Wang Ling's direction. A lot of people saw that a number 60 high student was actually so scared that his face was deathly pale and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. Little Peanut was also frightened by Wang Ling's expression, and he recalled what had happened with President Bai. Could it be that President Bai plotted against you and sucked you into the space last time, and you took a trip to the gates of hell, so you're traumatized? After all, it had only been less than a week since the incident happened. The wreath which the class had pooled money for Wang Ling back then hadn't even withered yet. How could the psychological trauma be so easily overcome? Dopey Guo patted Wang Ling on the shoulder and was overjoyed. He smiled at Wang Ling in a low voice. "You're a mascot, why are you so timid?" "Wang Ling, it's nothing. I'll hug you and see if it makes you feel better." As soon as he finished speaking, Dopey Guo opened his arms to hug her. However, as soon as his body touched hers, Dopey Guo felt a chill run down his spine, and a chill immediately rushed to his head. Then, his face started to turn pale, and his whole body started to tremble. Super Chen and Little Peanut were shocked. "What the hell? Is this contagious?" "Dopey Guo, I'm fine. I just don't know why, but I suddenly feel a chill, like a snake is coiling around me." After Dopey Guo said this, Wang Ling looked into the distance out of the corner of his eye. Fang Xing directly avoided his peripheral vision. Wang Ling, on the other side, a great battle was about to break out. After Wu Jinjuan's qi sank into his dantian, a massive sound wave, accompanied by a vigorous purple electric current, blasted out of the purple spirit Yin Eel's big horn like a world-destroying electromagnetic gun. Boom! The terrifyingly huge force stirred the air in all directions. In the instant that circles of electricity came into contact with the air, they interweaved with the black spring below. The sound of waves, wind, and electricity interweaved with each other. It was as if there was a sound of the great Tao constantly echoing in the enchanted space. Wang Ling's eyebrows furrowed slightly at this scene. Irascible Dharmaraja was indeed a rare cultivation genius. Back then, he had created this Buddha lightning myriad technique, and there were many other tricks to it. Unfortunately, rumor had it that after taking Wu Jinjuan in as his disciple, Irascible Dharmaraja had suddenly disappeared one day. Even his disciple, Wu Jinjuan, couldn't find Irascible Dharmaraja's whereabouts. All these years, Wu Jinjuan had been out in the field all over the place, mostly because he wanted to find his Shifu Irascible Dharmaraja. There had always been rumors in the outside world that Irascible Dharmaraja knew his lifespan was coming to an end, so he planned to find a disciple to inherit his mantle and then find a quiet place to pass away. But no one knew whether this information was correct or not. All in all, if Wang Ling had to evaluate this Buddha lightning myriad technique, of all the level 6 spells, this was probably the one closest to Heavenly Tao. Although it wasn't as powerful as Heavenly Tao, it still had the effect of a fox borrowing the tiger's might. This technique was full of power. Next, it was up to Wang Ming to deal with it. It was very obvious that Wang Ming had already thought of a countermeasure. Almost the moment before Wu Jinjuan released his killing move, Wang Ming's 10-layered spirit power cannon was fired into the air. But this time, the spirit power cannon's target wasn't Wu Zhenjuan, and it wasn't to counter Wu Zhenjuan's skill, but to break open the space wall. This action instantly attracted the attention of many teachers. They didn't know what Wang Ming was going to do, but that he could actually break open the space wall with just the power of a suit of armor. It was already quite astonishing. What is Teacher Wang trying to do by breaking open the space wall? He's not going to run, is he? Seeing this scene, a lot of people didn't understand what Wang Ming meant at all. Wu Zhenjuan, if you think the spirit power cannon is the only move I have, you're too naive. After successfully breaking open the space wall, Wang Ming smiled at Wu Zhenjuan with incomparable confidence. Wu Zhenjuan didn't understand what Wang Ming was going to do, but when he saw Wang Ming's expression, he was already on guard. In the next moment, Wang Ming gazed at Wu Zhenjuan. Heavenly E-satellite. Target locked. Heavenly E-bullet. Fire. As soon as he said this, a ball of light actually appeared in the shattered space wall, and then grew larger and larger at an extremely fast speed. At that moment, it wasn't just Wu Zhenjuan, even the teachers and students watching on, including President Qi and the other 10 generals who were commanding from Huaxiao Alliance headquarters, all had indescribable alarmed expressions on their faces. Heavenly E-satellite. When on Earth was that? Wu Zhenjuan finally knew what the killing move Wang Ming was talking about was. His face changed dramatically. Boom. An extremely frightening silver pillar of energy shot out of the space wall and pierced through Wu Zhenjuan like an energy wave. It directly smashed the sound waves of the Buddha lightning myriad and scorched the space around it until it distorted. Wherever the silver pillar of light passed, cracks even appeared in the space like a spider web, and the smell of destruction and chaos mingled within. Chapter 786. When the dazzling light slowly dissipated, the result of this duel was finally revealed to the world. No one expected that the mecha armor Wang Ming had invented could actually directly mobilize the Heavenly E-satellite's pulse cannon. Because of the barrier outside, the Heavenly E-satellite's pulse cannon couldn't reach Wang Ming directly, which was why Wang Ming had specially broken open the space wall to let the pulse cannon's light flow in through the cracks in the space. This pulse cannon directly scared the purple spirit eel back into the psychic array, instantly destroying Wu Zhenjuan's sound wave attack and restoring peace to the hellish, apocalyptic barrier. When the smoke from the battle dissipated, everyone saw Wang Ming without his armor and a bare-chested Wu Zhenjuan lying on the ground. Wu Zhenjuan wasn't injured, but had been knocked unconscious by the pulse cannon. The Daoist robe he was wearing had taken a large part of the damage, but it was already unusable as it was in tatters and had been completely destroyed by the pulse wave. Too bad. Wu Zhenjuan's Daoist robe was destroyed. Teacher Wang's armor was melted by the blast just now. Then who in the end won this duel? Did the cultivators win? Or did science and technology win? It's a tie. Didn't you see Teacher Wang fall to the ground? For a moment, the students were talking animatedly. Quick, go help him. When the barrier dispersed, the medical team who had already been waiting on the side swarmed over and carried the two people away to check on their injuries. Both of them looked injured. Actually, they weren't. When Wang Ling saw Wang Ming being carried away, the corners of his lips curled slightly. This black-bellied guy was pretending to be unconscious. 20 minutes later, an almost unscathed Wang Ming returned to the lounge dedicated to the rainbow glass box. Zhai Yin was already waiting inside. When she saw Wang Ming come in through the automatic door, she straightaway stomped her foot in anger. You're really something. Using the Heavenly E-satellite without permission. Without the head of state's approval, you'll go to jail. Wang Ming smiled shamelessly. That's great. If I go to jail, I strongly recommend that you send me to Songhai First Prison. I heard there's still one person missing to play mahjong. Zhai Yin, fine. Looking at his cheeky expression, Zhai Yin already had a rough idea that Wang Ming had a backup plan. This approach was not surprising, and it was very much in line with the strongest brain's fine style. By the way, when I fell just now, were you nervous? Wang Ming asked about what had happened after the duel. However, Zhai Yin's expression didn't change in the slightest. No. Impossible. When I disappeared, I heard that you cried for a few days. Jia Yin's face darkened. You. Who started this rumor? Wang Ming directly moved his face very close to Jia Yin's. Is it really a rumor? Jia Yin turned her face away. If the military dogs of our brigade died, I would be sad too. Oh, I see. Wang Ming shrugged. By the way, weren't you worried when I collapsed just now? No. Jia Yin's answer seemed to be quite decisive. Wang Ming sighed a little dejectedly. Sure enough, that tsundere was hard to deal with. Especially this kind of arrogant person who didn't speak a single word of truth. Alright, then I'm leaving. Wang Ming turned around and waved at Jia Yin. Where are you going? Jia Yin asked anxiously. Eat. I'm going to visit Teacher Wu while I'm at it. I'm not a cultivator. I'm starving after that fierce operation just now. Jia Yin stepped forward and pulled Wang Ming back. You're not allowed to go. Wang Ming was startled. What are you doing? Jia Yin raised Wang Ming's chin. What do you think I'm doing? Then, Jia Yin slowly closed her eyes and moved her mouth closer to his. Wang Ming was startled. Isn't it too late for you to do CPR now, Jia Yin? In the Huaxiao Alliance command room, the 10 generals who were watching the battle were stunned. General Yi stared at President Qi in disbelief. Heavenly E satellite, did you authorize this? The Heavenly E satellite pulse wave was a national weapon that absolutely couldn't be used without the approval of the head of state. Of course, President Qi knew what was at stake here, but he believed that Wang Ming wouldn't be so foolish. Hurry up and investigate. President Qi shouted at the technical department. In less than 10 seconds, the results were out. The technician stared at the screen and frowned deeply. Reporting, President Qi, the results are out. This pulse wave looks like the Heavenly E satellite pulse wave. It wasn't launched by the Heavenly E satellite. The Heavenly E satellite is still in standby mode. It wasn't a pulse wave launched by the Heavenly E satellite. Then why did this guy shout, Heavenly E satellite? General E questioned. Reporting, General E, we have indeed checked. After the Heavenly E satellite is used, it automatically enters a power storage state. It takes about half an hour for the second shot to be fired, and in this case, the Heavenly E satellite will automatically go into hibernation and shut down. But we just found that the Heavenly E satellite is in standby mode. This is enough to prove that the shot just now wasn't launched by the Heavenly E satellite. Oh, if it wasn't launched by the Heavenly E satellite, was it launched by a ghost? General E stared at the technician. The technician felt very wronged and smiled tearfully. Maybe, it really was launched by a ghost. Because the Heavenly E satellite really didn't react at all after it was launched. More than 20 people in the technical team checked inside and out, and there was nothing wrong with it at all. But Luo Qiuhuai, the female medicine saint of the 10 generals, shook her head. I think the same as old Qi. Wang Ming, this kid is usually a little playful, but he's not someone who doesn't follow the rules. Who knows, this pulse wave might not have been launched by the Heavenly E satellite at all. Luo Qiuhuai's words directly reminded President Qi. President Qi thought of a possibility. Check again and see if there have been any new satellites worldwide in the last few days. Hearing this, the technician's fingertips quickly jumped over the control panel. In less than 2 minutes, he had already found the information. Found it, President Qi, how is it? In the last 3 days, apart from the defense satellite launched by Mixiu Nation, there's another private satellite that was launched from an unknown coordinate. Sure enough, when the technician said this, President Qi already knew what had happened. Have you verified it? General E asked. The technician. We've already mobilized 10 satellites to take pictures, and found that the external design of this private satellite is almost identical to that of the Heavenly E satellite. Furthermore, there are obvious traces of a pulse wave. It's now in hibernation mode. That is to say, while Professor Wang Ming was missing, not only did he put together this suit of armor, he also specially built a satellite and launched it into space. Chapter 787. As an ordinary person, Wang Ming had practically proved with his actions that even a muggle without cultivation talent could use his wisdom and knowledge to change his fate. Of course, to be honest, people like Wang Ming were in the minority, and there might not be another one like him in thousands of years. But ordinary people did indeed have the possibility of changing their fate. The key wasn't whether they could, but whether they wanted to. By the way, the mecha armor that Kid Wang Ming invented shouldn't have been destroyed, right? General Yi's words were ambiguous, but his tone was very certain. A lot of people had been blinded by the intense light from the pulse wave caused by the E-bomb, and most of them had seen Wang Ming and Wu Zhenjuan fall to the ground when the light from the pulse wave disappeared. But this couldn't fool a true immortal. General Yi and the other 10 generals had seen it very clearly. The moment the power of the pulse wave and the light dissipated, Wang Ling withdrew Wang Ling 1 armor and put it away in his storage space. It wasn't like what the others had thought, that the armor had been destroyed by the pulse wave. It's indeed still here. President Qi nodded. According to Huaxiao Alliance's regulations, as an official scientific researcher, Wang Ming developed this armor without reporting it in advance, so it should be confiscated. According to the regulations, he should also be punished, General Yi said. As expected, Blade Master is as impartial as ever. Female medicine Saint Luo Qiuhui smiled slightly and smoothed things over on the side. But considering how sudden it all happened this time, Wang Ming developed this armor in a moment of life-threatening danger. Although he didn't report it, according to Huaxiao Alliance's crisis self-defense regulations, he can be exempted from the corresponding punishment, and the armor can even be exempted from being confiscated. This is his personal property, and Huaxiao Alliance has no right to interfere. General Yi's brow furrowed into a knot again. Actually, he understood this reasoning. Little Ming won this battle, but he chose to play dead at the last moment. Everyone should know what this means, right? President Qi said indifferently. How could the 10 generals not understand the meaning of Wang Ming's action? The two sides were far apart in terms of realm strength, but because of this suit of armor, there was practically no gap between them. If Wang Ming won this fight in full view of the public, it was bound to have a huge impact on the mentalities of the teachers and students watching the fight, and might even lead to mental problems. For cultivators, the state of mind was also a very important decisive factor. It would directly determine whether one could go further on the path of cultivation. It would be too unrealistic for the teachers and students present to stop progressing in the future because of this armor and attempt to rely on the power of science and technology to quickly increase their strength. Wu Zhenjuan had also collapsed. But at the very least, Wang Ming had deliberately turned this battle into a draw, which at the very least showed that cultivation and science were equally matched and complemented each other. Little Ming once told me that science is dead, but cultivation is alive, with infinite possibilities, President Qi said. This was what Wang Ming had said before, and was one of the main reasons why he had set the match to a draw this time. Although old Qi himself didn't know why a muggle who didn't know anything about cultivation would say something that sounded like chicken soup for the soul, it could be said that Wang Ming had personally experienced this since he was young. The armor that Wang Ming had developed this time was indeed very abnormal. It could even fight a 9th-level itinerant immortal to a draw. But if he ran into someone a little more powerful, his equipment could be dismantled in a matter of minutes. Given the current level of science and technology, there were actually still bottlenecks. Wang Ming had already considered breaking through this bottleneck when he had improved Wang Ling 1 for the 3rd time. He thought that the domain of the gods would definitely have the answer he wanted to know. But that was a story for another time. What do the rest of you think? General Yi turned to look at the other 10 generals present. Qiu Huai and old Qi have a point. Wang Ming can be exempted from punishment. He can also keep the armor. I even think he should be commended to a certain extent. Looking at the others, Marshal Jiang finally cleared his throat and spoke as a representative. Commended? He should be commended. Marshal Jiang said resolutely. For Wang Ming, this should have been a dead end, but he managed to turn it around. And most importantly, in the face of such a crisis, he was actually able to calmly design a suit of armor that can be said to transcend the century. I think we should commend him for meritorious service, and then hold an internal symposium for him to share his experience in making armor or something. General Yi was startled. Are you the devil? Marshal Jiang, the 10 generals all looked at Marshal Jiang. They instantly understood. This was confiscation in disguise. Marshal Jiang shrugged. Of course, I'm just mentioning it. Whether to commend him or hold a symposium is another matter. The point is that Wang Ming doesn't have to be punished or hand over the armor. That's all I have to say. The Dead Sea of Space has always been called a graveyard for magic treasures. All these years, the various major countries have had very limited use of the Dead Sea of Space. Many of them, including us, just use it as a dumping ground. But it turns out that some of the junk magic treasures inside, whether they were thrown in by humans or carelessly sucked in, actually still have some value. If we can properly develop the Dead Sea of Space and recycle enough of the junk to turn it into treasure, this will be an invisible rich mine. President Qi expressed his opinion. So my opinion is that we can hold a symposium, but not for little Ming to share his experience in making armor, but for him to talk about his origins in the Dead Sea of Space. In passing, explain the cause of death of that Dark Network member, Ghosthead Blade. What do you say, oldie? Since Battle Saint and Medicine Saint have spoken up one after another, this old man naturally has no other opinion. General Yi nodded in agreement. If news of Ghosthead Blade's death in the Dead Sea of Space got out, it would definitely be a huge blow to the Dark Network. Finally, as for the commendation that Battle Saint mentioned, I think we should dispense with it. Wang Ming, this kid, is still a good-for-nothing, and we can't praise him too highly. And to be honest, I still want to punish him. In the end, the reason why this crisis happened this time was because he was too rash. That hothead. Saying this, President Qi slapped the table, his face red and he looked a little angry. One by one, the technicians buried their heads in their work and didn't dare make a sound. Only the 10 generals' hearts were as clear as a mirror. Old Qi looked unperturbed on the surface, but in fact, he was overjoyed in his heart. Since ancient times, when a disciple surpassed his master, there had never been a teacher who wouldn't be happy. Chapter 788. The 10 generals were still here, and there were so many technical personnel. He was a commander, an aloof wisdom saint, how could he laugh? Since everyone is more or less in agreement, then it's decided for the time being. Let's wait until little Ming comes back. President Qi did his best to restrain his emotions as he cleared his throat. By the way, has the head of state found any clues on that mysterious expert? General Yi asked at that moment. He was very concerned about this expert who had mixed in with the teachers. It looks like he hasn't for the time being. This senior is very good at hiding himself, even the head of state can't detect him. President Qi shook his head. But that's fine. After this, we will specifically conduct a physical examination for all the teachers who will be leading the team after they return from Beast King's remains. A physical examination? General Yi raised an eyebrow. His subconscious was telling him that this physical examination absolutely wasn't simple. President Qi nodded. There has been a physical examination in previous years, mainly to examine some injured teachers to see if they have accidentally brought in a special virus from the remains, and mainly for quarantine purposes. But this year, it's for everyone. It's not just the teachers, but also the students participating in the summer camp. This is also the head of state's intention. When President Qi said this, everyone already understood. This physical examination for all the teachers had probably been specially designed to target that mysterious expert. High-precision scientific equipment was used for the physical examination, and common methods of concealment couldn't be hidden from this equipment. Furthermore, blood tests were absolutely unavoidable during the quarantine. If a teacher refused to take part in the physical examination, they could basically be added to the list of suspects. In short, for that mysterious expert, this was absolutely a situation where it was hard to get off. The 10 generals nodded one after another. This move by the head of state was really brilliant. And so, it was August 5th on Saturday in the 15th week of the semester. Wang Ling returned home in the wee hours of the morning, and Odd Chua drove him to the entrance of the Wang family's small villa. Wang Ming had actually planned to personally take Wang Ling home, but in the end, he couldn't dissuade Jia Yin, and was forcibly dragged back to the research institute to make a report. Previously, Jia Yin had only heard that the institute was going to punish Wang Ming, and had been extremely nervous. She had actually still been kept in the dark about Wang Ming's decision to exempt him from punishment. Thus, after returning from the remains, Jia Yin forcefully dragged Wang Ming away, wanting him to admit his mistake as soon as possible to show that he had the right attitude and fight for leniency later. But Face hadn't been home for the past 2 days. He had gone to play games with Wei Ji. Wei Ji could be considered a pet trainer of some renown in Songhai City. Now, he was with Loopy Toad all the time, they took the bus together, they went out together, and they were together all the time. As a result, Loopy Toad didn't have to sneak around when it took the bus like before, even if it spoke human language on the bus, no one would find it strange. Wei Ji was a famous pet trainer. What was so strange about having a spirit dog that could talk? The only thing Loopy Toad needed to worry about was the Society of Saints. During the few days he had been away, President Fu of the Society of Saints and his assistant secretary, Han Jin, had paid him a visit. They wanted to hire Loopy Toad as class monitor of the Society of Saints Spirit Beast class with a high salary, but unfortunately, Loopy Toad had been at Wei Ji's place at the time, so Father and Mother Wang hadn't been able to directly make the decision for it. Hence, President Fu and his assistant went to Wei Ji's family apartment. However, they could not enter at all. For Loopy Toad, life in the human world was very comfortable, especially after it had adapted to its new body. Every day could be said to be relaxing and cozy. In a place like the Spirit Beast class, the Spirit Beasts all had masters behind them, and their identities were presumably not ordinary. If Loopy Toad went in carelessly, it might instead cause trouble for Wang Ling HM. Wang Ling had read all of this in Loopy Toad's diary. Dog 2's diary had always been open to the public, and had never been hidden. It had been placed under Wang Ling's bed. It had to be said that Buttface's handwriting was getting better and better. He used his paw to hold the pen, and the words he wrote were quite vigorous and powerful. Moreover, every word was in a standard square. From afar, it looked like the words were arranged neatly and orderly. It was as if it could be printed out. This was simply the gospel for people with OCD. Wang Ling didn't rest that night, but was busy thinking about what had happened at the summer camp. He had indeed gained a lot from this summer camp, but there had also been a lot of trouble. How to deal with the aftermath was a big problem. First of all, the 2 young masters of disabled elder senior high school, Li Mingyao and Zhou Yuzheng, definitely wouldn't give up looking for him. These 2 people were very influential in Songhai City, and were like ticking time bombs. He had to think of a way to make arrangements after that. Of course, compared with Li Mingyao and Zhou Yuzheng's troubles, the head of state was a bigger problem. Although Wang Ling hadn't directly attracted the head of state's attention this time, on the way back from the summer camp, everyone had received a notice that they would be going for a quarantine checkup next Monday. This quarantine was for all the teachers and students who were going to the summer camp this time. It didn't take a genius to know that the head of state had definitely discovered something. Furthermore, he was no longer just suspecting that there was a mysterious expert among the teachers. Since they had to be on guard, they had to be on guard in advance, otherwise they would be caught unprepared, which would be throwing themselves into disarray. Of course, apart from these troubles, Wang Ling's harvest from the summer camp this time was related to the domain of the gods. The domain of the gods indeed existed, because ever since he was young, Wang Ling had dreamed countless times about a very vague immortal island, but he couldn't remember what it was at all. Could that place be the domain of the gods? Or was it related to the domain of the gods? But for now, the information that Wang Ming and Odd Zhua had obtained from Devil King was still quite limited. Everything could only be discussed after Little Silver finished looking at the black box that Devil King had given him. Wang Ling cupped his chin in his hand as he pondered. Then, he knocked on the ground. He had specially told Mother Wang not to erase the heavenly Tao array he had set up in his room last time, so that it would be easier to use later. So Wang Ling just knocked on the ground. A moment later, the heavenly Tao incarnation of the golden 3-inch man appeared in the center of the array. What do you want this time? The golden 3-inch man was scared when he saw Wang Ling. Then he looked at the ground and realized that this was still the same array that had summoned him the last time, and was instantly speechless. He was the heavenly Tao. Chapter 789. The golden 3-inch man, who was the embodiment of heavenly Tao, really wanted to cry, but he always felt very powerless in front of Wang Ling. He had been summoned here again and again this month, and it wasn't to trade resources or anything like that, but to ask about secrets. These secrets were all secrets of the heavens. The most important thing was that it was one thing to trade for secrets of the heavens, but who would use crispy noodle snacks to make a trade? It was all his father's fault for using crispy noodle snacks to make a trade with the youngster in front of him back then, which had created this true devil. Speak, what's the matter? The golden 3-inch man sighed as he completely accepted reality. Wang Ling was rummaging through his drawer. He actually didn't have many crispy noodle snacks left, and he was actually very reluctant to give them away. So he had just been rummaging through expired crispy noodle snacks. The flagship store had a recycling service for expired crispy noodle snacks, and Wang Ling was a privileged gold card user, so the flagship store could even collect them at his doorstep. But then Wang Ling thought that he should leave some expired crispy noodle snacks for heavenly Tao. So before the summer camp had started, Wang Ling had used his privileged doorstep service to get Loopy Toad to help him with the exchange. But what he got in return were expired crispy noodle snacks. A complete crispy noodle snack pack could be exchanged for 3 expired crispy noodle snacks. The golden 3-inch man was blank at this scene, and then immediately stretched out his hand. Young hero, please wait. Wang Ling turned his face away. The golden 3-inch man, actually, you don't have to use crispy noodle snacks to make a trade. We only provide a loan service here. You can ask questions first, and then exchange them later with a handwritten copy. That good? Wang Ling's eyes lit up when he heard this. This heavenly Tao was indeed very conscientious. Wang Ling sighed in his heart. But the problem was that he had already prepared expired crispy noodle snacks. It would be a pity not to use them. Perfect, I have 3 questions. Wang Ling spoke lightly, and then presented the 3 expired crispy noodle snacks. The golden 3-inch man was startled. Past, expired. Wang Ling raised his eyebrows and stared at the heavenly Tao as he said firmly telepathically, I don't make a deal with you based on what you want, but on what I have. The golden 3-inch man was about to cry. Let's begin. Wang Ling stared at the golden 3-inch man. The little golden man wanted to cry but had no tears. A golden scroll appeared in his hand. This is the Book of Heavenly Mysteries, a golden scroll specially used to record the mysteries of heaven. You can write a question on this Book of Heavenly Mysteries, and the answer will naturally appear on it. The Book of Heavenly Mysteries was a supreme magic tool that recorded all the secrets of the Great Tao. It was an existence that surpassed the natural fate of heaven and earth, so it was naturally more powerful than world-defying magic tools. Ordinary people had to pay a price for prying into the secrets of the heavenly Tao. All the secrets sealed in the heavenly secret vault could be found in the Book of Heaven's Secret. Of course, these secrets had to be related to the heavens way. There were still a lot of useless questions, such as what so-and-so liked to eat, what could be used against him, and so on. If these people did not have a strong connection with the heavenly Tao itself, then it would be useless to ask them. According to the laws of the heavenly Tao, the price of spying on the heaven's legacy vault was as follows. 1. Prying into the secrets of heaven requires an equal price in exchange, and if necessary, the price is your life. 2. For Rule 1, if you have to pay the price of your life after obtaining the answer, the questioner will turn to dust within 48 hours and disappear completely. 3. If the person prying into the secrets of heaven is an extremely evil person, they will not be able to reincarnate after death. 4. After obtaining the answer, the person prying into the secrets of heaven must keep the secrets of heaven secret. If they leak the secrets of heaven, they will be punished by heavenly Tao by lightning and will never be able to reincarnate. 5. The person prying into the secrets of heaven must cultivate more than 100 heavenly Tao, or obtain more than 3 outer Tao. 6. The person prying into the secrets of heaven can consume an equal amount of their lifespan to reduce the price of their offerings. 7. Heavenly Tao reserves the right to explain everything. 8. Those on the Heavenly Tao whitelist are not subject to the above rules, and Wang Ling happened to be on the Heavenly Tao whitelist. Hence, the golden 3-inch man had never been able to do anything about Wang Ling. If someone else wanted to pry into the secrets of heaven, nothing could be more tragic than paying the price with their life. Wang Ling just had to hand in the homework he didn't want, or even the expired crispy noodle snacks. With privilege, you could do whatever you wanted. Helpless, he could only accept it. What was the saying again? The heavenly Tao reincarnated, whoever Wang Ling spared, the bitter fruit that had been sown back then was finally being borne out by them. Thus, when Wang Ling wrote down the question he wanted to ask in the Book of Heavenly Secrets and raised his head again, he saw 2 streams of tears flowing down the golden 3-inch man's blurry face. He was actually crying. Wang Ling didn't understand. What an amiable person he was. The little golden man wiped his tears and put away the 3 packets of expired crispy noodle snacks in front of him. Although it was already a privilege for Wang Ling to exchange his handwritten exercise books for resources, these 3 packets of expired snacks really weren't as good as handwritten exercise books. Your question has already been received by the Heavenly Secrets Warehouse. You'll need to wait about 3 or 4 minutes for the answer to appear in the Book of Heavenly Secrets. The golden 3-inch man rolled up the Book of Heavenly Secrets again and put it in front of Wang Ling. Waiting for 3 or 4 minutes was just enough time for a song. Suddenly, the little golden man had an idea, and decided to play a song for Wang Ling. Listen, this song. The little golden man just clapped his hands, and a melodious, 3-dimensional voice instantly filled the room. The prelude to the beautiful song rang out. Wang Ling, this is the little golden man. This is the Heavenly Tao songstress singing. Each of us Heavenly Tao has a different task. When many cultivators pass away in meditation, a lantern will appear in front of their eyes, and they will also hear melodious music, which is the Heavenly Tao songstress singing silently behind their backs. Thus, the Heavenly Tao songstress's voice isn't something that ordinary people can hear. Her voice has a myriad of variations, and is a collection of the most beautiful voices in the entire dimensional universe. Every voice can be studied to imitate a musical instrument, so the Heavenly Tao songstress can sing as she sings. Wang Ling, At that moment, the Heavenly Tao songstress, who had countless voices, had already finished singing the prelude. The song officially began, always asking for things from me, but never saying thank you. It wasn't until I grew up that I realized that crispy noodle snacks were cheap. Every time I made a deal, I pretended to be relaxed, smiling and saying, let's make a deal, I'll give you the expired snacks. The little golden man, so, is there anything you want to say? Wang Ling, it sounds good. The little golden man had already completely given up on resisting Wang Ling. Forget it, if it's expired, then so be it. Chapter 790. Unfortunately, he actually didn't know that he was on the Heavenly Tao's whitelist. The whitelist of the Heavenly Axiom was not announced to the public. Once one was listed on it, this secret would only be known by the Heavenly Axiom and no one else. But in fact, whether or not Wang Ling knew that he was a whitelist wasn't a big deal. After all, even if he wasn't a whitelist, they still couldn't beat Wang Ling. Among the 3,000 Heavenly Taos, every Heavenly Tao was a large clan. There were many little golden men that were divided into generations according to size. If they wanted to defeat Wang Ling, they might have a chance if all 3,000 Heavenly Tao families attacked together. A few minutes later, he followed the little golden man's instructions and opened the Book of Heavenly Secrets. Previously, he had written 3 questions in the Book of Heavenly Secrets. 1. Is President Baija dead or not? 2. Angler, are you from the God's domain? 3. Where exactly is the God domain located? As for the Book of Heavenly Mysteries, it gave the answers to the 3 questions. Everything was as Wang Ling had expected. President Bai hadn't completely died back then. During the summer camp, Wang Ling had had a bad feeling. He knew that President Bai's soul had been absorbed by Night Ghost Spirit Emperor, and when he had invaded President Chi's mind and slapped Night Ghost Spirit Emperor, he had been a little too heavy-handed. After that, Wang Ling wondered whether President Bai would take this opportunity to launch a counterattack. As expected, the situation was just as he had expected. This piece of dog skin plaster was still alive. The current situation was a little complicated. Because President Bai was bound to continue his revenge, and the Heavenly Tao had already confirmed that the angler from before was someone from the domain of the gods. As for the location of God's domain, the Tianji book did not give a direct answer. According to the Book of Heavenly Secrets, he had to find the angler and verify his identity before the answer to the 3rd question would appear. Thus, Wang Ling frowned when he saw the 3rd question, which was clearly the most critical one. This was the first time the little golden man had seen this young master's deflated expression. You ask too many questions, that's why you're like this. Moreover, the answer to the 3rd question is that you would have to pay a huge price, so this is already quite good. After all, the secrets of the heavens cannot be leaked. Wang Ling, elsewhere, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Little Silver were enjoying a broccoli salad dinner. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal hadn't been idle during Little Silver's absence. He had been investigating the identity of the mysterious angler as well as the informant who had been continuously posting clues on the forum. Starting with the incident with President Bai, the informant had been able to continuously share new information anonymously on the cultivation forum. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's intuition told him that there had to be some kind of connection between the informant and the angler. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal picked up a piece of broccoli and put it in his mouth. It seems that a lot happened during this trip to Beast King's remains. Little Silver stuffed a lot of things into his mouth, and his words were slurred. Unfortunately, we were still fooled in the end. Although His Majesty Beast King didn't die, he was deceived for more than 1,000 years. When will Beast King's black box? Dao King Devil Dao Beast Star, Silver King God Demon, King God, Dao has he, Dao, it will take some time before the box can be opened. Lord Beast King has imparted me a set of cultivation technique. I have to combine the cultivation technique to open the box. I Dao Dao King King Emperor Master, I Dao 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 first. I have to cultivate it to at least level 5 before I'm qualified to open the box. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal broke out in a sweat. Level 5, you haven't started cultivating it yet, have you? Little Silver nodded. That's right, I have to start from scratch. I only solidified my mental cultivation method on the way here. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, then, how long will you need to learn it? Little Silver sucked his fingers in deep thought. It takes about 2 or 3 days to cultivate one level. Based on the difficulty of each level of the cultivation method, it'll take at least a week to half a month to cultivate 5 levels, a month at most. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, even cultivating 5 levels in a month was godlike speed. As expected, the holy beasts were all monstrous geniuses, and each of them could be said to be cultivation geniuses who had been bestowed food by their ancestors. Most importantly, they were born with long lives, which meant that apart from the difficulty of cultivating realms, they learned everything quickly. Sure enough, people were more infuriating than Silver. This kind of learning speed was in fact very astonishing, but in Little Silver's eyes, this was nothing more than a normal basic operation. It was like a straight-A student holding a 98 exam paper exclaiming why 2 marks had been deducted, while you were sighing softly at why the other person had scored 98. That was the difference. The cultivation speed of humans and holy beasts couldn't be compared. Thinking this, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took a deep breath. He felt that he still had to be a little more Buddhist and patient when it came to cultivation. Old Senior Wang in the Wang family's small villa had already pointed out a shortcut for him to comprehend heavenly Tao, broccoli. Although he had already been eating broccoli for almost 2 months, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal still hadn't comprehended its meaning, but since it was a senior's hint, there had to be a reason for it. Maybe he hadn't eaten enough. Maybe he hadn't comprehended enough. What have you been playing recently? Do you have any new games? Little Silver ate his dinner as if nothing had happened, completely unaware of the ripple in grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's heart when he found out about Little Silver's cultivation speed. Games. I haven't been playing much lately, Brother Silver. Games are a huge waste of time. Back then, in order for you to quickly adapt to life in the human world, I didn't tell you about the disadvantages of playing games. Do you know how many people play games until they go bankrupt on small loans? Is it that serious? Little Silver rubbed his head. It was obvious that Little Silver hadn't realized it at all. Of course it is. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's gaze was very serious. You should know that some people often pay an extremely heavy price to draw out a golden legendary card. Generally speaking, people who seek a sense of existence in the game often have very empty lives in real life. Brother Silver, you should find something more meaningful to do. Aren't I writing a novel? Little Silver spread his hands. Although it's not as good as Senior Wang's, I actually don't think it's that bad. Besides, games actually don't cost much, and I rarely spend money on them. Then last month, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal recalled Little Silver's electronic bill from last month. Among them, there were more than 60 pages of electronic orders in the virtual network column. Grenade-throwing, if you think about it this way, can the money I spend playing games be more than the money I spend on takeout? I don't think so, then that's it. As long as I spend more money on takeout than on games, it proves that I'm not a good-for-nothing. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was stunned. What the hell was this reasoning? Logically speaking, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that Little Silver really couldn't be blamed for this. It was he who had spoiled Little Silver rotten. Being addicted to games wasn't right, and grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that he should guide Little Silver back onto the right path as soon as possible. I've been preparing a new project recently. Brother Silver, do you have time to join me? It just so happens that you can gather some material for your novel, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said after clearing his throat. What project? Tell me about it. Chapter 791. Setting up a sect wasn't something that could be done overnight. It was now the era of civilized cultivation, and there were rules and regulations for everything. It wasn't like the ancient era, when all you had to do was find a suitable land of mountains and rivers, invest in building a sect, and recruit people. Back then, you didn't even need to buy land. If several people who wanted to set up a sect had their eyes on the same land of mountains and rivers, whoever one would own it. Therefore, there were a lot of factors that needed to be considered in order to set up a sect in today's society. As early as several hundred years ago, around the time the Cultivation Forum had just been set up, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had already conceived the idea of setting up a sect. However, at that time, he hadn't had enough resources. He had lacked supplies, money, management, strength and connections. He hadn't had anything. But things were different now. The development of the Cultivation Forum was even better than what grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had imagined when he had first set up the site. He had relied on the forum to expand all kinds of interpersonal relationships and connections. Furthermore, he had used the forum to post all kinds of news about the cultivation world to explore and uphold justice everywhere, thoroughly spreading the name, Great Deathcourting Senior, in the cultivation circle. For many people, the soul formation stage was an unattainable realm that they could only dream of. Of course, this realm was far from enough for grenade-throwing Senior Immortal himself. At the very least, it was nothing compared to the big shots around him. Even in the chat group set up based on the cultivation forum, grenade-throwing senior immortal felt that as the group leader, his realm ranking in the group was only above average. Wang Ling naturally didn't need to be mentioned in the same breath as him. Even the newcomers to the group, Little Silver, Brother Fang Xing and Daoist Guang, were much better than him. The most frightening thing was that grenade-throwing senior immortal had the vague feeling that Dog 2's strength was about to surpass his. An ambitious person would always compare himself with those who were more outstanding than he was. After this comparison, he would naturally fall behind, and then work even harder and strive even harder to follow in the footsteps of these outstanding people to become even more outstanding. Grenade-throwing was this kind of person. Little Silver had never seen grenade-throwing with such a serious and meticulous face. Grenade-throwing was usually a very sunny and cheerful person. Little Silver clearly remembered that he had only seen this expression in one situation before. That was, while planting broccoli in the backyard. Realizing that grenade-throwing was seriously talking to him about the construction of the sect, Little Silver was blank for a long while before he asked, "So you've chosen a place?" "I already have a few pieces of land that I like in Songhai City, which is in the suburbs. I've heard from a friend that it's about to be divided into a new district called Chenling New District." Grenade-throwing senior immortal said, "Historically, that area has been very barren, and demons have wreaked havoc there, so development hasn't been particularly good in the last few hundred years. A lot of real estate developers have encountered all kinds of mysterious and supernatural events there, such as regional earthquakes, building material trucks running into ghosts on the road, and even evil spirits howling in the middle of the night. Didn't a feng shui master take a look?" Little Silver asked curiously. In the past, feng shui masters would go there every day to measure the feng shui, but the result was that the divination showed that it was an ominous place. "That's why there are very, very few residents living there now," said grenade-throwing senior immortal. After hearing this, Little Silver was very surprised. "Then why did you decide on that land?" "Because more than 10 years ago, it was said that the feng shui there suddenly improved overnight. But I think this might have something to do with Brother Ling's family." "Master." "That's right." Grenade-throwing senior immortal nodded. "I heard that Brother Ling's family moved here more than 10 years ago." "Oh, that's right, I forgot to tell you, the pieces of land I chose are very close to East Huang Road in front of Brother Ling's house." Little Silver finally understood at this point. No wonder that place had suddenly changed from an ominous place to a land of good feng shui. It turned out that it was because Master was there to suppress it. Master was already a very strong person. And there were so many seniors in this villa. Big Master. Old Master. Old Master's wife. Great Master, a total of 5 masters. So what if there were a lot of demons and ghosts in that area? When the 5 masters were added together, that would be the ultimate bomb. Little Silver actually hadn't been very interested in this matter at first, but when he heard that the sect was going to be built near the Wang family's small villa, his interest was immediately piqued. If the sect was really built there, it would be so convenient for him to move around with Master in the future. "Then, grenade-throwing, do you have a general idea?" Little Silver asked again. "I've been working on the general idea since several hundred years ago, and I think I'll start with our chat group for the main management. Our sect must break away from the shackles of traditional sect doctrines and develop our own individual sect characteristics. Of course, this must be built on the basis that it doesn't violate our core values and the will of the country. We definitely can't do anything that breaks the law." When Little Silver saw that grenade-throwing's eyes were shining as he said this, his expression was so serious that it moved Little Silver. "Brother Silver, let me ask you a question. When your holy beast race was divided into tribes back then, was it like a small sect?" "A little." Little Silver nodded. "But that couldn't be called a real sect. A sect needed to be run, and the tribes established by the holy beast race weren't so strict in their management. In ancient times, why did people set up sects? In order to find a group of like-minded fellow Taoists, they vigorously pushed out unique secret arts that only their sect had. These unique secret arts were the key to attracting a large number of disciples to join the sect. Grenade-throwing senior immortal stood up and said tirelessly, in ancient times, sects were actually set up for those who had the strength to do so. In the absence of any overall rules and regulations, those who had the strength wanted to leave a mark on their name for generations to come, carry forward their techniques, and promote their reputation. And the disciples who joined the sect often sought peace in these troubled times when hundreds of schools contended for supremacy. Little Silver seemed to understand a little. Then, grenade throwing, you mean, times are different now. Brother Silver, do you think that if we were like before, and purely used those techniques to attract outsiders to recruit people, would anyone come? Nowadays, there are a lot of spirit skill shops online, and there are many ways to cooperate on copyrights of techniques. Just go online, and the techniques you want can be sent to you electronically. Why go through the trouble of joining a sect? That makes sense. Little Silver nodded in agreement with grenade-throwing senior immortal's point of view. But Little Silver's expression was still a little hesitant, because after talking for so long, grenade-throwing senior immortal still hadn't explained why they were setting up a sect. Then what are we setting up this sect for? It's not like we're going to build a broccoli farm. Brother Silver, you're really smart. Ah. Of course, this is just one of the plans in my sect's blueprint. The main show is actually yet to come. Chapter 792. Building a sect was something that sounded very exciting just from the sound of it. Little Silver had never been the head of a sect before, but he could more or less understand what it felt like. It was probably like being the head of a holy beast clan, similar to being the head of a big family. Grenade-throwing senior immortal had also said that people in modern cultivation society had a different need for sects compared to the ancient era. In the past, people had looked for sects just to be able to learn a technique in a chaotic world and have something to rely on. There were all kinds of struggles and competitions between the sections. After most of the sects collapsed in the competition, some of the disciples who were originally attached to the sects died in order to protect the glory of the sects, while others wandered outside and eventually turned to other sects. But under the modern system, while there was still competition between sects, they would never fight each other, as there were government departments to regulate them. Therefore, the relationship between the light faction sects was more of a business competition. Unlike before, disciples who joined sects now didn't just want to find something to rely on, but more for the purpose of making money and becoming famous. Little Silver had previously learned a little about the structure of modern human sections. To put it bluntly, modern sects already had a trend of acting as management companies, and the disciples who signed up with them were actually trainees who had just entered an acting company. Although sects still maintained the previous hierarchy of inner and outer sect as well as inner disciple, it was undeniable that this trend was becoming more and more obvious in the current sect circle. On the surface, sects didn't mention it, but most of them had a tacit understanding. A famous sect star disciple could bring a considerable amount of revenue to the sect in the future, which was a huge boost to the sect's popularity, network traffic, the number of new recruits each year and so on. They were far more reliable than a star with a pretty face. In the current cultivation society, although the phenomenon of looking at one's face still existed, people with good faces were becoming less and less rare. With spells and modern cultivation technology, even if one was born with a face like a hairy egg, one could still become a spotlessly white egg. What mattered more was ability. Have you told Master about this? Little Silver asked as he bit his finger. This was a habit of his. Every time he was thinking, he would bite his finger, and sometimes it would even bleed. However, due to the holy beast's extremely strong regenerative ability, the skin that was bitten would recover in an instant. I was just about to discuss the establishment of the sect with Brother Ling. I had even thought about making Brother Ling the honorary sect leader or vice sect leader, but given Brother Ling's character, he would definitely not accept it. Master has always been very low-key. Little Silver lowered his head and pondered for a moment before he suggested, I'm sure you won't be the sect leader, but maybe you can agree to be a guest official. Brother Silver's idea isn't bad. I'll talk to Brother Ling later, and it's fine if he doesn't accept. Actually, I have someone else in mind for the position of deputy sect leader. Grenade-throwing senior immortal had an excited expression on his face. What do you think of Brother Joie? Little Master. Little Silver was blank. Little Master, in terms of his position in the group, he's indeed qualified to be deputy sect leader. But Little Master's strength is only at the Jean Dan stage, so I'm afraid it won't be very friendly when recruiting from the outside. And Little Master is working in a government department, so there shouldn't be any way for him to take up a position in the outer sect, right? Grenade-throwing senior immortal waved his hand. That's fine. I've already submitted our sect plan to a friend. If the sect is established, our sect will be a light force that will work closely with the government department. Work together. Grenade-throwing senior immortal said, I don't think I've told Brother Silver about our sect's original intention, have I? As I said before, the needs of modern sects are already different from those of the past. Most sects now take the route of a management company, and train outer sect disciples as trainees, inner sect disciples as newcomers, and inner sect disciples as idols. But sooner or later, we won't be able to continue down this path, and we'll definitely have to adjust it later. Then our sect is a big, relaxed family, and we have to make all the disciples feel at home. After our disciples enter the sect, we won't set up a ranking system based on their cultivation or overall situation. All disciples who join the sect are treated equally and receive the most basic benefits. If you want to advance, you can only complete sect missions to earn reputation points, so even disciples at the foundation establishment stage have the chance to become department heads in the inner and outer sect. In addition, our sect has a dream realization plan that's completely different from other sects. We'll train disciples who have relatively weak cultivation talent but have made great contributions to the sect, and help them realize their dreams, making the impossible possible. It's precisely because of this dream realization plan that we'll set up a special government supervisory team office. So Brother Joie can serve as deputy sect leader of the supervisory team, which won't be a problem at all. Furthermore, Brother Joie has been very active in the public eye in the last few months. His participation will also help the sect expand rapidly in a short period of time, said Grenade-throwing senior immortal. Little Silver nodded, this was the truth. Little Master wasn't very strong, but he was clearly a genuine child of Providence. Little Master's shadow could be seen in almost every major incident in the last few months. Audiobook was the main reason why the Mahjong squad in Songhai First Prison had been established. Furthermore, he had heard that in order to deal with foreign infiltrators this time, the Mahjong squad had helped General by display his invincible might and rendered meritorious service. These people should have been sentenced to death, but now that they had performed meritorious deeds to atone for their crimes, the death penalty could probably be reduced to a reprieve, and then they would be locked up for a few thousand years. But the problem was that it was questionable whether these people would be able to live for several thousand years. Thus, while they were serving their sentences, the Mahjong squad had to work day and night to complete all kinds of assigned tasks in exchange for points to atone for their crimes. The dream realization plan sounds amazing. Little Silver was completely fired up by Grenade-throwing senior immortal's enthusiasm. Although he didn't know how this dream realization plan would work, it did sound like a good project that would benefit the people, so it was inevitable that the government would be interested. This dream realization plan is amazing. Grenade-throwing senior immortal snorted. Actually, this dream realization plan had another name, Audiobook's plan, which could also be called the scapegoat plan. Grenade-throwing senior immortal had specially devised this plan in order to attract Wang Ling. When a sect was established, a specialized scapegoat group would be set up. And Audiobook would be the leader of this scapegoat group. What's the name of the sect? Asked Little Silver. It's already been registered. Grenade-throwing senior immortal chuckled and gave Little Silver a file. This sect name had been registered 5 years ago. Grenade-throwing senior immortal had already been slowly implementing his plan to establish a sect since 5 years ago. Then, Little Silver looked at the name of the sect. He almost jumped in fright. War. Chapter 793. The golden 3-inch man who was the embodiment of heavenly Tao really wanted to cry, but he always felt very powerless in front of Wang Ling. He had been summoned here again and again this month, and it wasn't to trade resources or anything like that, but to ask about secrets. These secrets were all secrets of the heavens. The most important thing was that it was one thing to trade for secrets of the heavens, but who would use crispy noodle snacks to make a trade? It was all his father's fault for using crispy noodle snacks to make a trade with the youngster in front of him, which had created this true devil. Speak, what's the matter? The golden 3-inch man sighed as he completely accepted reality. Wang Ling was rummaging through his drawer. He actually didn't have many crispy noodle snacks left, and he was actually very reluctant to give them away. So he had just been rummaging through expired crispy noodle snacks. The flagship store had a recycling service for expired crispy noodle snacks, and Wang Ling was a privileged gold card user, so the flagship store could even collect them at his doorstep. But then Wang Ling thought that he should leave some expired crispy noodle snacks for Heavenly Tao. So before the summer camp had started, Wang Ling had used his privileged doorstep service to get Loopy Toad to help him with the exchange. But what he got in return were expired crispy noodle snacks. A complete crispy noodle snack pack could be exchanged for 3 expired crispy noodle snacks. The golden 3-inch man was blank at this scene, and immediately stretched out his hand. Young hero, please wait. Wang Ling turned his head. The golden 3-inch man, actually, you don't have to use crispy noodle snacks to make a trade. We only provide a loan service here. You can ask questions first, and you can exchange your handwritten copies later. That good? Wang Ling's eyes lit up when he heard this. As expected, this heavenly Tao had a conscience. Wang Ling sighed in his heart. But the problem was that he had already prepared expired crispy noodle snacks. It would be a pity not to use them. Perfect, I have 3 questions. Wang Ling spoke lightly, and then presented the 3 expired crispy noodle snacks. The golden 3-inch man was startled. Past, expired. Wang Ling raised his eyebrows and stared at the heavenly Tao as he said firmly, I'm not making a deal with you to see what you want, but what I have. The golden 3-inch man was about to cry. Let's begin. Wang Ling stared at the golden 3-inch man. The little golden man wanted to cry but had no tears. A golden scroll appeared in his hand. This is the Book of Heavenly Mysteries, a golden scroll specially used to record the mysteries of heaven. You can write a question on this Book of Heavenly Mysteries, and the answer will naturally appear on it. The Book of Heavenly Mysteries was a supreme magic tool that recorded all the secrets of the Great Tao. It was an existence that surpassed the natural fate of heaven and earth, so it was naturally more powerful than world-defying magic tools. Ordinary people had to pay a price for prying into the secrets of the heavenly Tao. All the secrets sealed in the heavenly secret vault could be found in the Book of Heaven's Secret. Of course, these secrets had to be related to the heaven's way. There were still a lot of useless questions, such as what so-and-so liked to eat, what could be used against him, and so on. If these people did not have a strong connection with the heavenly Tao itself, then it would be useless to ask them. According to the laws of the heavenly Tao, the price of spying on the heaven's legacy vault was as follows. 1. Prying into the secrets of heaven requires an equal price in exchange, and if necessary, the price is your life. 2. For Rule 1, if you have to pay the price of your life after obtaining the answer, the questioner will turn to dust within 48 hours and disappear completely. 3. If the person prying into the secrets of heaven is an extremely evil person, they will not be able to reincarnate after death. 4. After obtaining the answer, the person prying into the secrets of heaven must keep the secrets of heaven secret. If they leak the secrets of heaven, they will be punished by heavenly Tao by lightning and will never be able to reincarnate. 5. The person prying into the secrets of heaven must cultivate more than 100 heavenly Tao, or obtain more than 3 outer Tao. 6. The person prying into the secrets of heaven can consume an equal amount of their lifespan to reduce the price of their offerings. 7. Heavenly Tao reserves the right to explain everything. 8. Those on the Heavenly Tao whitelist are not subject to the above rules, and Wang Ling happened to be on the Heavenly Tao whitelist. Hence, the golden 3-inch man had never been able to do anything about Wang Ling. If anyone else wanted to pry into the secrets of heaven, nothing could be more tragic than paying the price with their lives. Wang Ling just had to hand in the homework he didn't want, or even the expired crispy noodle snacks. With privilege, you could do whatever you wanted. Helpless, he could only accept it. What was the saying again? The heavenly Tao reincarnated, whoever Wang Ling spared, the bitter fruit that had been sown back then was finally being borne out by them. Thus, when Wang Ling wrote down the question he wanted to ask in the Book of Heavenly Secrets and raised his head again, he noticed that the golden 3-inch man's blurry face was actually shedding tears. He was actually crying. Wang Ling didn't understand. What an amiable person he was. The little golden man wiped his tears and put away the 3 packets of expired crispy noodle snacks in front of him. Although Wang Ling was usually already privileged enough to exchange his handwritten exercise books for resources, these 3 packets of expired snacks really weren't as good as handwritten exercise books. Your question has already been received by the Heavenly Secrets Warehouse. You'll need to wait about 3 or 4 minutes for the answer to appear in the Book of Heavenly Secrets. The golden 3-inch man rolled up the Book of Heavenly Secrets again and put it in front of Wang Ling. Waiting for 3 or 4 minutes was just enough time for a song. Suddenly, the little golden man had an idea, and decided to play a song for Wang Ling. Listen, this song. The little golden man just clapped his hands, and a melodious, 3-dimensional voice instantly filled the room. The prelude to the beautiful song rang out. Wang Ling, this is the little golden man. This is the Heavenly Tao songstress singing. Each of us Heavenly Tao has a different task. When many cultivators pass away in meditation, a lantern will appear in front of them and they will also hear melodious music, which is the Heavenly Tao songstress singing silently behind them. Thus, the Heavenly Tao songstress's voice isn't something that ordinary people can hear. The Heavenly Tao songstress's voice has countless variations, and it's a collection of the most beautiful voices in the entire dimensional universe. Every voice can be studied to imitate a musical instrument, so the Heavenly Tao songstress can sing as she sings. Wang Ling, At that moment, the Heavenly Tao songstress, who had countless voices, had already finished singing the prelude. The song officially began, always asking for things from me, but never saying thank you. It wasn't until I grew up that I realized that crispy noodle snacks were cheap. Every time I made a deal, I pretended to be relaxed, smiling and saying, let's make a deal, I'll give you the expired snacks, the little golden man. So, is there anything you want to say? Wang Ling, it sounds good. The little golden man had already completely given up on resisting Wang Ling. Forget it, if it's expired, then so be it. Chapter 794. The Green Sect Enterprise Investment Committee was essentially a foundation. Although it hadn't been established for long, it had already helped many small and medium-sized enterprises build bridges with the newly established Light Force sects, recommend investments, analyze the market, and achieve a win-win situation in the short term. Note that the angel investors mentioned here were all small and medium-sized enterprises. The truly large consortiums wouldn't contact them through intermediaries. Companies nowadays paid attention to compounding profits. If they wanted to achieve economic growth in the short term, they had a large enough capital chain, so they didn't have to consider long-term investments. Thus, investing in new sects was very beneficial for some small and medium-sized enterprises. Everyone was in the stage of development, and investing in 1 or 2 sects that looked like they had more potential would give them a certain proportion of shares. If the sect developed in the future, it would be a very considerable income. Grenade-throwing senior immortal had learned a little about the investment committee before. If the bosses really took a fancy to a sect, it would actually be very easy to pull in 1 or 2 billion. Some rich and overbearing enterprises could even invest several billion in the initial construction of the sect, but this was all in Huaxia currency. Whether it was grenade-throwing senior immortal or Odd Zhua, this was the first time they had heard of a company investing directly in immortal gold. Converted to Huaxia currency, this investment was a whole 400 billion. Did this boss have a mine at home? 1 billion immortal gold, he's definitely a mine owner. Salian Jinren and the others were also shocked by this figure. I think we still need to be a little more cautious. But Face held his two paws and swung his tail. Brother Dog is right. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal nodded. Although grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had expected that the sect structure would definitely attract investors who would be genuinely interested, offering 1 billion immortal gold right off the bat was too much of an exaggeration, and it felt like they were deliberately taking the bait. Do you have any relevant information on the company you're investing in? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal asked Audjua. After returning from the remains, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had asked Audjua to take care of the Enterprise Investment Committee. Because of Audjua's position in the general administration of 100 schools, it was very convenient for him to ask colleagues from other departments, otherwise this process would have taken some time. All the companies that have been approved by the Green Sect Enterprise Investment Committee have already passed the relevant qualification checks. That colleague just gave me the information on that company. Its full name is Anderson Technology, and it has branches both at home and abroad, mainly focusing on cultivating children's interest in cultivation. Child cultivation. This word was actually quite new to the ears of many people here, because no one here had children. But in fact, the term, child cultivation, was not a new term. Children's cultivation is a newly developed sunshine industry in the last few decades. There are various types of industries, which are intended to cultivate children's interest in cultivation from a young age and unearth their potential in cultivation. Anderson Technologies has made great achievements in the field of psychological counseling and motivation, as well as building a foundation for preschool children, said Audjua. There was nothing much to say about the field of psychological counseling and encouragement. Through one-on-one or one-on-many psychological counseling sessions, children who were not very interested in cultivation would be guided to develop an interest in it. Based on scientific data, even if they were not very talented, if they had a strong passion for cultivation from a young age, it would be of great help to their later growth. As for the building foundation for preschoolers, this industry was also one of the signboards of Anderson Technology. It was mainly for preschoolers to lay a solid foundation before they built their foundation in the future, in order to prevent situations where their foundation was unstable. If the foundation of their realm was unstable, then there would be a long period of bottlenecks when they broke through to the foundation establishment stage, one of the 9 stages of qi condensation. After they advanced to the foundation establishment stage, their realm might even regress. Anderson Technology had developed a variety of products and related courses to help children stabilize their foundation in this field, which were widely praised by parents. Audjua said, using its achievements in these two fields, Anderson Technology has opened branches both at home and abroad, attracted several rounds of financing from angel investment companies, and finally successfully went public in the country. This is a legitimate state-owned enterprise. But because Anderson Technology hasn't been around for a long time, it isn't as well known as Huaguo Water Curtain Group. But given its current annual profit growth rate, by the year after next at the latest, it will definitely be listed among the world's top 500 companies and stand as an equal with Huaguo Water Curtain Group. So this Anderson Technology is pretty reliable. Listening to Audjua's description of Anderson Technology, the others were all stunned. This is a certified enterprise, so there shouldn't be any problems. But their investment is indeed a little unusual. Audjua also lowered his head in thought. This enterprise had all the qualifications and had outstanding achievements in its field, but for some reason, Audjua had an ominous premonition. If this angel investment of 1 billion immortal gold went ahead, Anderson Technology would probably own almost 70 to 80% of the General Office of Strategic Deception's shares. Although grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had a lot of startup capital, it was far less than 1 billion immortal gold. 1 billion immortal gold. Even if he used it to set up a new sect, he would be able to open 7 or 8. In any case, I think we should be a little more cautious. What do you think, brothers? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said. Senior Immortal is right. Salian Jinren nodded. Investing is certainly a good thing, but sometimes there are risks. We've only met the other party by chance. Even if they're interested in our sect, it doesn't seem normal for them to invest such a huge sum in one go. It's good to be cautious. Dharmaraja also nodded. Good. Brother Zhua, I'll have to trouble you to contact that colleague of yours. We'll set up a time with this investor to visit some of the sect's sites. Grenade-throwing senior immortal thought for a bit, then looked at Zhua. In any case, since the other party had come to invest with such sincerity, it wouldn't look good to directly reject them. Anderson Technology was a big company. Although they didn't know why they would suddenly want to invest in a new sect, and it seemed like there was something fishy about it, in any case, they still had to meet with the person in charge first. At the very least, they had to understand what they were thinking. When? Zhua asked. Let's make an appointment tomorrow morning, Grenade-throwing senior immortal said. Chapter 795. The Green Sect Enterprise Investment Committee was essentially a foundation. Although it hadn't been around for long, it had already helped a lot of small and medium-sized enterprises build bridges with newly established light force sects by recommending investments and analyzing the market, thus achieving a win-win situation in the short term. Note that the angel investors mentioned here were all small and medium-sized enterprises. The truly large consortiums wouldn't contact them through intermediaries. Companies nowadays paid attention to compounding profits. If they wanted to achieve economic growth in the short term, they had a large enough capital chain, so they didn't have to consider long-term investments. Thus, investing in new sects was very beneficial for some small and medium-sized enterprises. Everyone was in the stage of development, and investing in one or two sects that looked like they had more potential would give them a certain proportion of shares. If the sect developed in the future, it would be a very considerable income. Grenade-throwing senior immortal had learned a little about the investment committee before. If the bosses really took a fancy to a sect, it would actually be very easy to pull in 1 or 2 billion. Some rich and overbearing enterprises could even invest several billion in the initial construction of the sect, but this was all in Huaxia currency. Whether it was Grenade-throwing senior immortal or Zhua, this was the first time they had heard of a company investing directly in immortal gold. Converted to Huaxia currency, this investment was a whole 400 billion. Did this boss have a mine? 1 billion immortal gold, he's definitely a mine owner. Salian Jinren and the others were also shocked by this figure. I think we still need to be a little more cautious. But Face held his 2 paws and swung his tail. Brother Dog is right. Grenade-throwing senior immortal nodded. Although Grenade-throwing senior immortal had expected that the sect structure would definitely attract investors who would be genuinely interested, offering 1 billion immortal gold right off the bat was too exaggerated, and it smelled like they were deliberately taking the bait. Do you have any relevant information on the company you're investing in? Grenade-throwing senior immortal asked Zhua. After returning from the remains, Grenade-throwing senior immortal had asked Zhua to take care of the Enterprise Investment Committee. Because of Zhua's position in the general administration of 100 schools, it was very convenient for him to ask colleagues from other departments, otherwise this process would have taken some time. All the companies that have been approved by the Green Sect Enterprise Investment Committee have already passed the relevant qualification checks. Just now, my colleague from that department showed me the information on that company. Its full name is Anderson Technology, and it has branches both at home and abroad, mainly focusing on cultivating children's interest in cultivation. Child cultivation. This word was actually quite new to the ears of many people here, because no one here had children. But in fact, the term, child cultivation, was not a new term. Children's cultivation is a newly developed sunshine industry in the last few decades. There are various types of industries, which are intended to cultivate children's interest in cultivation from a young age and unearth their potential in cultivation. Anderson Technologies has made great achievements in the field of psychological counseling and motivation, as well as building a foundation for preschool children, said Zhua. There was nothing much to say about the field of psychological counseling and encouragement. Through one-on-one or one-on-many psychological counseling sessions, children who were not very interested in cultivation would be guided to develop an interest in it. Based on scientific data, even if they were not very talented, if they had a strong passion for cultivation from a young age, it would be of great help to their later growth. As for the building foundation for preschoolers, this industry was also one of the signboards of Anderson Technology. It was mainly for preschoolers to lay a solid foundation before they built their foundation in the future, in order to prevent situations where their foundation was unstable. If the foundation of their realm was unstable, then there would be a long period of bottlenecks when they broke through to the foundation establishment stage, one of the 9 stages of qi condensation. After they advanced to the foundation establishment stage, their realm might even regress. Anderson Technology had developed a variety of products and related courses to help children stabilize their foundation in this field, which were widely praised by parents. Audiobook said, using its achievements in these 2 fields, Anderson Technology has opened branches both at home and abroad, attracted several rounds of financing from angel investment companies, and finally successfully went public in the country. This is a legitimate state-owned enterprise. But because Anderson Technology hasn't been around for a long time, it isn't as well known as Huaguo Water Curtain Group. But given its current annual profit growth rate, by the year after next at the latest, it will definitely be listed among the world's top 500 companies and stand as an equal with Huaguo Water Curtain Group. So this Anderson Technology is pretty reliable. Listening to Audiobook's description of Anderson Technology, the others were all dumbfounded. This is a certified enterprise, so there shouldn't be any problems. But their investment is indeed a little unusual. Audiobook also lowered his head in thought. This enterprise had all the qualifications and had outstanding achievements in its field, but for some reason, Audiobook had an ominous premonition. If this angel investment of 1 billion immortal gold went ahead, Anderson Technology would probably own almost 70 to 80% of the General Office of Strategic Deception's shares. Although grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had a lot of startup capital, it was far less than 1 billion immortal gold. 1 billion immortal gold. Even if he used it to set up a new sect, he would be able to open 7 or 8. In any case, I think we should be a little more cautious. What do you all think, brothers? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said. Senior Immortal is right. Silien Jinrin nodded. Investing is certainly a good thing, but sometimes there are risks. We've only met the other party by chance. Even if they're interested in our sect, it doesn't seem normal for them to invest such a huge sum in one go. It's good to be cautious. Dharmaraja also nodded. Good. Brother Zhua, I'll have to trouble you to contact that colleague of yours. We'll set up a time with this investor to visit some of the sect's sites. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal thought for a bit, then looked at Audiobook. In any case, since the other party had come to invest with such sincerity, it wouldn't look good to directly refuse. Anderson Technology was a big company. Although they didn't know why they would suddenly want to invest in a new sect, which seemed to be full of tricks, in any case, they still had to meet with the relevant person in charge. At the very least, they had to understand what they were thinking. When? Audiobook asked. Tomorrow morning, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said. Chapter 796. This was the fastest meeting in the history of the Heavenly Tao Adjudication Committee. Since ancient times, no one had dared to kill the Heavenly Tao Whitelist. Back then, the Heavenly Tao Whitelist had been created in response to Tao ancestor Wang's call. The number of people protected by the Heavenly Tao Whitelist was extremely limited, and could be counted on one's fingers. Wang Ling was just one of them. Even so, Wang Ling's position on the white list was extremely special. Wang Ling was a Heavenly Tao whitelist VIP client. Strength Heavenly Tao had already mentioned this early on. Since he was a VIP client, he naturally had VIP privileges. Since everyone is of the same opinion and has decided to punish him, how many days is a suitable punishment? Strength Heavenly Tao asked. Punishment was punishment, and the scale was naturally appropriate. Considering that Wang Zhen was Dao ancestor Wang's grandson, if his power of heavenly Dao was confiscated, his strength would naturally be greatly reduced in the short term. If he ran into trouble while his strength was greatly reduced, that would be bad. When Strength Heavenly Dao said this, the Heavenly Dao fell into deep thought. Spirit Heavenly Dao said, "How about 81 days as the limit?" Space Heavenly Dao shook its head. "Isn't 81 days a little too long?" Spirit Heavenly Dao, attacking a VIP whitelist is a crime punishable by death. This is already the greatest protection we can give him. Space Heavenly Dao, but if we're too heavy-handed, I'm afraid it won't be easy to explain to Dao ancestor Wang. If something happens to Wang Zhen, how will we explain the situation to His Excellency Dao ancestor when we pay our respects at his heroic spirit palace every year? Hello, His Excellency Dao ancestor. Let's work together to confiscate your grandson Wang Zhen's heavenly Dao, and accidentally kill him. Please forgive us, His Excellency Dao ancestor. Well, how about 49 days? No, 49 days is a little long. In the end, time Heavenly Dao sighed. 7 days it is. We'll confiscate all his power of Heavenly Dao for 7 days. I hope he can reflect on his actions in 7 days. Also, we have to send someone down to explain the situation to Wang Zhen. If he does anything to that lord again, it won't be as simple as 7 days. The Heavenly Dao nodded. Okay, let's do that. On the other side, in Wang Zhen's spiritual domain, the tens of thousands of clones summoned by the Great Separation spell densely filled the entire spiritual space, completely surrounding Wang Ling. These clones were all physical, and as they punched him, it wouldn't be so easy for him to dodge. Wang Ling frowned slightly as he pondered how to deal with this situation. The moment Wang Zhen charged with a roar, a golden light actually pierced through the mental domain and directly struck Wang Zhen. With a pained roar, Wang Zhen was sent flying like a scarecrow. This golden light was very strange. It didn't look like it had penetrated the space wall, but had actually directly transcended space and appeared in Wang Zhen's spiritual space. Moreover, this golden light contained the supreme aura of Heavenly Dao. Although the golden light had only appeared for a brief moment, Wang Ling firmly believed that he hadn't smelled it wrong. This was the power of the Heavenly Dao. The appearance of this golden light directly shook Wang Zhen away. Struck by this golden light, Wang Zhen instantly knew something was wrong. *T. The next moment, his spiritual space split open. Outside Midnight Dining Hall, Wang Zhen came back to his senses, his face full of amazement. Separated by a door and a glass wall, he felt Wang Ling's aura inside, and his hands actually started to tremble involuntarily. Now, Wang Zhen had a strange feeling. He felt that a lot of the power hidden in his body was slowly flowing away like sand. Wang Zhen was shocked. How is this possible? In the next moment, Wang Zhen really did feel it. His power of Heavenly Dao disappeared. Furthermore, it had completely disappeared, not even a strand of hair was left. No, how could this be? Wang Zhen clutched his head, unable to believe what was happening in front of him. Why couldn't he use any skills? Could it be that the Heavenly Dao skill was on cooldown? That wasn't right. He remembered that the Heavenly Dao skills were all instantaneous, so how could there be a cooldown? This despicable thief had actually set him up. Inside the shop, because Wang Zhen's spiritual space had been interrupted by the golden light of Heavenly Dao, he was forced to withdraw from it. In fact, Wang Ling didn't want to leave the spiritual space. He had wanted to take this great opportunity to ask Wang Zhen a few questions, but he never expected the Heavenly Dao to actually stop him. A great opportunity to ask questions was ruined just like that. Wang Ling stared outside the door, a little depressed. Looking at the swaying figure outside the door, Tan Qian asked in a very low voice, "Why hasn't the boss come in yet? Has he been at the door all this time?" Sure. Grenade-throwing senior immortal made a shushing gesture. Can't you tell? This boss is also a Daoist expert. He looks like he's not moving at the door, but I'm guessing he's probing. Brother Ling happens to be here, so he's communicating spiritually with this boss. In a fight between experts, the lowest level was to start fighting as soon as they saw each other, the intermediate level was to first rely on a battle of words to force the other party to make a move first, and the highest level was nothing more than the current situation. Both sides didn't seem to be moving, but in fact, they had already permeated each other's spirits and were having a friendly exchange of pointers. Tan Qian was suddenly enlightened. So that's how it is, as expected of Ling Zhenren. Wang Ling didn't know about the Heavenly Tao whitelist, and didn't know that Wang Zhen had been forced to leave the spiritual space because the Heavenly Tao had ruled that his Heavenly Tao had been confiscated. However, he saw Wang Zhen standing outside the door looking like his wife had been snatched away. Wang Ling guessed that this person had probably run into some kind of thorny problem. Should he go and take a look? Wang Ling got up and slowly walked over. Wang Zhen was so startled by Wang Ling's movement that all his hair stood on end. Although he didn't know why he suddenly couldn't use the power of Heavenly Tao, but Wang Zhen also knew that all of this had something to do with Wang Ling. This person's strength was even more terrifying than he had imagined. He could actually restrain the power of Heavenly Tao. If he was just a simple thief, how could he have this kind of ability? After thinking it over at top speed, Wang Zhen couldn't help feeling a storm in his heart. Although he didn't want to admit it, Wang Zhen indeed had no choice but to re-examine Wang Ling. He wondered if he had recognized the wrong person. Maybe this senior inside wasn't the thief, and the thief was someone else. Just as Wang Zhen was about to open his mouth to talk to Wang Ling, dark clouds gathered in the sky at that moment and thunder rumbled. When Wang Zhen turned his head to look behind him, his expression changed dramatically. Leave him, it was as if he heard the sound of great Tao that only he could hear. In the next moment, this sound of great Tao turned into a bolt of heavenly lightning that pierced through his head. This scene, Wang Zhen couldn't be more familiar with it. Heavenly Tao lightning, plus the fact that he couldn't use Heavenly Tao spells. At that moment, Wang Zhen was finally convinced that he had been judged by the Heavenly Tao. Chapter 797. This situation was completely out of Wang Zhen's expectations, and far beyond his own. He never thought that he would actually be wanted by Heavenly Tao while he was still alive. A bolt of heavenly punishment struck him precisely on the top of his head. This was a warning, not a threat to his life, so apart from turning his hair into an afro, it didn't affect his body in any other way. But what Wang Zhen could be sure of was that if he continued to get close to Wang Ling, given that he was wanted by Heavenly Tao's lightning of heavenly punishment would fall continuously, and each strike would be stronger than the last. Thus, after recognizing this fact, Wang Zhen's first reaction was to retreat. He had no other choice now. In a situation where the power of the Heavenly Tao was prohibited, his overall combat strength was greatly reduced. Perhaps if he were to fight Bai Zhenao, it was possible that he could end up in a draw, or even be at a disadvantage. If he were to continue to be injured in such a state, it would really cost him his life. When Wang Zhen saw Wang Ling's aura approaching him, he almost hysterically yelled at the small shop, You, don't come over here. Wang Zhen was horrified to realize that he actually couldn't resist Wang Ling's aura. Now that he had lost the power of Heavenly Tao, the other party's oppression was several times stronger. Several times stronger. Wang Ling, who didn't know what was going on with Wang Zhen, just wanted to check on him. Who knew that as soon as he approached, Wang Zhen would start screaming as if he had seen a ghost. When Wang Ling opened the door and saw Wang Zhen directly cupped his face in his hands, and even his appearance had turned into the world-famous painting, The Scream. As he screamed, Wang Zhen could only shake his feet and start to retreat frantically. But before he could get far, Wang Ling saw Wang Zhen cry out as he fell head first to the ground in the distance. His body had actually gone limp from fear under the oppressive aura, and when he flew through the air, he lost the strength to support himself and directly fell to the ground. Boss Tan's younger brother Tan Qian and grenade-throwing senior immortal were horrified at this scene. What happened? Tan Qian looked into the distance. Damn, why does the boss look like he's seen a ghost? Grenade-throwing senior immortal cupped his chin and seemed to understand the current situation a little. Sure enough, my decision to bring Brother Ling here was the right one. If you don't do anything shameful, you won't be afraid of ghosts knocking on your door. Brother Ling has never met this boss before, yet he's scared to this extent. This boss must have a guilty conscience. Looks like there's something wrong with this Tusheng technology. Wang Ling was speechless. Huh? He's really Buji Island. Who knew why this person attacked him as soon as they met? He even claimed that he was a thief. Just a moment ago, he was still acting like he was going to use the heavenly Tao to punish him. In the blink of an eye, this person had left the battlefield. Not only did he disconnect, but he also looked as if he had seen a ghost. Thus, Wang Ling stopped moving. After observing for a moment, he saw the man struggling to crawl out of the ground like a drowning salted fish. His face was deathly pale, and the expression on his face was incomparably ferocious. Those who didn't know might think that he was bewitched. Brother Ling, this person doesn't look too good. Is he sick? Do you want to go take a look? Grenade-throwing senior immortal asked. He had overlooked a situation just now. If there was nothing wrong with this boss, then it was very likely that he himself was sick. Unfortunately, it had flared up at this stage of the negotiation. This was also one possibility. Wang Ling pursed his lips. He had too many questions to ask Wang Zhen. But just as he took a step in Wang Zhen's direction, the latter quickly cried out in alarm like before, "Mo, devil! Don't come any closer. I surrender." When Wang Zhen cried out in alarm, his throat was clearly trembling. Wang Ling didn't believe it, and took another step forward. Then, he saw Wang Zhen's eyes directly roll back into his head, and he straightaway became motionless. Grenade-throwing senior immortal slowly walked over and checked Wang Zhen's condition. He was still breathing, but he had already completely fainted from fear. At the same time, this scene was also witnessed by the 6 great heavenly Tao in the alternate dimension. Wang Zhen had already fainted, so the lightning of heavenly punishment naturally stopped. Wang Zhen was no longer a threat to Wang Ling, and it was very clear that he had also received the punishment he deserved. Even if the power of heavenly Tao recovered in 7 days, it would probably take some time before it could make a move against Wang Ling again. Strength heavenly Tao sighed. If you had known this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Life and death heavenly Tao smoothed things over. He can't be blamed for everything. After all, apart from the ancestor of Tao creation, no one else knows about the whitelist rule. That's right. Space heavenly Tao nodded. So I don't think it's a bad thing. It's also good for Wang Zhen to know about it earlier. After all, that person's identity is very special. It's better to recognize friend from foe and let go of past grudges and grievances. In the end, it was all thanks to his ancestors that he could achieve what he had today. Unfortunately, the Wang family has been imitating His Excellency Tao ancestor all these years, but no one from the Wang family has ever been able to surpass him. In the end, His Excellency Tao ancestor's era is over. I don't think so. Spirit Heavenly Tao had a different view. In the end, Ling's existence is a variable. He's someone who can change the entire structure of the Wang family. Otherwise, His Excellency Tao ancestor wouldn't have paid the price in blood back then. Soul Heavenly Tao, they've been fighting below all this time. Why didn't His Excellency Tao ancestor make things clear from the beginning? At the very least, he should have left some information. The misunderstanding is getting bigger and bigger now. If things can't be stopped in the end, what should we do? Time Heavenly Tao, the secrets of heaven can't be revealed. Some things can only be understood and not explained. If His Excellency Tao ancestor made everything clear, there would be no point in testing the descendants of the Wang family. It's easy to obtain Tao, but difficult to comprehend it. Apart from Tao itself, no one can take the 3,000 great spells away. When Time Heavenly Tao said this, all the Heavenly Tao fell into deep thought. They recalled Tao ancestor Wang's hopeful expression when he had set up this game of chess back then. He had always firmly believed that the descendants of the Wang family could break through fate and break through this obstacle. As Time Heavenly Tao said, it was easy to obtain Tao, but difficult to comprehend it. Sometimes, letting go of obsession wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Unfortunately, as the eldest grandson of the Wang family, Wang Zhen didn't know when he would understand this principle. Chapter 798. After Wang Zhen fell unconscious, Wang Ling used the great teleportation spell to teleport grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Wang Zhen to Chrysanthemum Island, where Immortal Toya was. Ever since Immortal Toya had overcome the Kuan's belly girl's coma, he had made new breakthroughs in his research on difficult diseases like coma, and had developed many new drugs. These drugs might not work on the Kuan's belly girl, but surprisingly, they were very effective on patients suffering from vegetative diseases in the outside world. It was said that a lot of patients suffering from vegetative diseases who had been unconscious for more than 100 years had miraculously woken up recently. Almost every day, couriers would come to Immortal Toya's island to deliver silk banners as fast as possible. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Wang Ling, and Wang Zhen landed directly at the place where Immortal Toya refined elixirs. In the alchemy room, the Kuan's belly girl was wearing a snow-white hospital gown, which Cai Jinren had asked Immortal Toya to change into. The gown was made of a special material that would automatically clean the dirt on the skin, so there was no need to bathe even if she was unconscious. Furthermore, the gown was very thin, so acupuncture could still be performed on her acupuncture points even if she was wearing clothes. Brother 2, where are Jin Shi and Yin Shi? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal asked as soon as they landed. He had already sent them a text message before coming, so Immortal Toya wasn't frightened at all. He smiled slightly. Jin Shi and Yin Shi are outside receiving deliveries. They probably received a lot of silk banners today. Where's the patient? Let me take a look. Saying that, Immortal Toya cleaned his hands and turned his gaze to Wang Zhen. He waved his fingers in the air, and Wang Zhen's eyelids were pulled by a small gravitational force. After checking Wang Zhen's pupils, Immortal Toya took his pulse and looked inside Wang Zhen's body. Brother 2, how is it? It's probably an intermittent coma caused by shock, but it's nothing compared to the symptoms of the Kuan's belly girl. This gentleman is very strong, even if I don't prescribe him medicine, he'll be able to recover on his own. Sometimes, it's mostly psychological factors. As for how long it will take for him to wake up, it all depends on the extent of this gentleman's psychological trauma. Of course, you can still use medicine. I'll make some medicine later and inject it into this gentleman, he might wake up soon, Immortal Toya said. That's good. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal nodded. But speaking of which, Senior Immortal, what scared this gentleman to this extent? He's one of my investment clients. We were supposed to meet today, and I wanted Brother Ling to check on him for me. I didn't expect this client to test Brother Ling's spirit as soon as he came up, and after the test, he was so scared by Brother Ling. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sighed a little gloomily. Wang Ling, scared of Ling Jinren. Immortal Toya frowned deeply. Ling Jinren is such an amiable person, how could he scare someone like this? I think Senior Immortal should be careful. This gentleman is most likely up to no good, perhaps he's not here to invest at all. The so-called investment is just an excuse. Thank you for the reminder, Brother 2. I'll be extra careful from now on. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said, actually, while we were waiting for the investment at Midnight Dining Hall, Brother Daoist Guang introduced me to a reliable investor. I heard that it was his #1 fan who recommended him, and Brother Guang acted as a go-between and built an excellent bridge for us. Wang Ling, the #1 fan, without a doubt, this #1 fan was Father Wang. Recently, Father Wang had been fascinated by Daoist Guang's live stream. Ever since the chicken dinner, he had been watching it almost every day. Furthermore, he was far ahead in terms of contributions as a fan, and his ID was still that, did 3 days and 2 sleeps update today? That was to say, Father Wang had helped recommend an investor. Who on earth could it be? What kind of investor? Immortal Toya asked. We don't know who it is yet, we'll only know after we meet. The other party's person in charge has already set a time for tonight. Brother Ling and I will be just in time to catch up, said grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. In that case, I wish Senior Immortal success in advance. Immortal Toya smiled. But I hope that before Senior Immortal and Jinren leave, you can help me control this gentleman. He's very strong, and if he does something out of fear after he wakes up and destroys my Chrysanthemum Island, it won't be worth it. After he wakes up, I'll immediately inform Senior Immortal and Jinren. Wang Ling nodded, this was a given. Given Wang Jin's strength. Wang Ling estimated that even 1,000 Immortal Toyas couldn't match up to 1/10 or 2/10 of Wang Jin's battle strength. This was a very strong opponent. So Wang Ling raised his hand and didn't stand on ceremony with Wang Jin's suppressive spells, and directly used the Great Confinement Spell, Great Magic Suppression Spell, Great Spirit Sealing Spell, Great Suppression Spell, Great Gravity Spell, a total of more than 30 heavenly Dao to suppress Wang Zhen in all aspects. If Wang Ling hadn't undone these spells, Wang Zhen would actually be no different from a vegetable. That night, after the failed negotiations in the afternoon, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Wang Ling returned to Midnight Dining Hall, where Boss Tan's younger brother Tan Qian worked. The second investor, whom Daoist Guang and his #1 fan had recommended, was a reliable one, and the appointed time was 7:00 in the evening. It was now less than 5 minutes to 7:00. Because this person had been recommended by Father Wang, Wang Ling wasn't sure if this person had seen him before, so he cast the Great Transfiguration spell on himself to make a simple change in appearance. Wang Ling had always been cautious, so when grenade-throwing Senior Immortal saw Wang Ling's actions, he already understood and didn't ask too many questions. A few minutes later, a figure appeared at the entrance of the shop. After pushing the door open, the person bowed deeply to grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Wang Ling. Hello, I'm the person in charge of the investment negotiations this time. You can call me my Yuqiang or Mai. Brother Mai, please sit down. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal hurriedly got up. Seeing this, Tan Qian also hurriedly turned around to prepare food. Senior Immortal, you don't have to be so polite, I'm just following orders. This man called Mai was full of smiles. Senior Immortal, you can rest assured about this investment. Our higher-ups have already decided to fully support Senior Immortal's sect development. Aren't you going to take a look at the location of my sect? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was stupefied. This had actually already been decided. The higher-ups believe that you can rest assured and leave the sect's operations to Senior Immortal. We're only responsible for delivering money, oh, no, for investing. May I ask who Brother Mai's higher-ups are? Huaxiao Nation's Alliance of Cultivators, also known as Huaxiao Alliance. The head of state will take the lead in this investment plan, and the 10 generals will invest separately. The total investment is 2 billion immortal gold bars. Chapter 799. 2 billion, that's a lot. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's mouth dropped so wide that he felt like he could stuff an egg into it. 2 billion immortal gold, this investment was too exaggerated. This was no longer a problem of having a mine at home. The person in charge, Mai, cleared his throat. Perfected Immortal is indeed someone who has seen the world. Ordinary bosses would definitely faint on the spot when they hear this number. This shows that Perfected Immortal is indeed capable of accepting this angel investment. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, no, he was just too shocked and forgot to faint for a moment. At this point, Mai looked at the disguised Wang Ling. Senior Immortal, may I ask who this is? This is Ling Jinren, our sect's future guest official, as well as one of the main officers, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said. So this is Ling Jinren. Sorry for not recognizing you. Wang Ling's heart trembled. His Daoist name, Ling Jinren, had always been a shell, like a smurf. He had never known that his Daoist name would actually have a voice outside the chat group. It seemed like it was time for him to change his Daoist name. For a moment, Wang Ling's mind was full of thoughts as he pondered his new Daoist name. My king. I have already left the palace. How about crispy noodle snacks? After learning that the person sitting next to grenade-throwing senior immortal was Ling Jinren, Amai's expression instantly turned solemn. I really didn't know that Ling Jinren would actually be traveling with senior immortal this time. To be honest, I'm a little excited just thinking about it. This feeling is even better than buying 10 family buckets and eating the skin of a finger-sucking original chicken. Grenade-throwing senior immortal, Wang Ling, grenade-throwing senior immortal. Brother Ling has always kept a low profile. How did Brother Amai find out about him? Ling Jinren naturally keeps a low profile, but senior immortal, you should know how many people are watching your cultivation forum. It really isn't easy for senior immortal to run it to this extent. Actually, there were a lot of posts online analyzing senior immortal's backer, and in the end, it was only natural that they would find Ling Jinren. Now, this Daoist name Ling Jinren was quite famous not only in senior immortal's forum, but also on other websites. Actually, I'm also very curious. How did you manage your website? How is it managed so well? Grenade-throwing senior immortal's face flushed from the praise. Not at all, not at all, it's all thanks to Brother Ling and the nation. Read more books, read more newspapers, eat less snacks, sleep more, pay your internet fees on time, and pay your taxes on time. You are right, perfected cultivator. I nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. Just recently, the Tax Bureau exposed a showbiz actress's Yin-Yang contract, and the fine was 800 million immortal gold. This matter caused quite a stir. Thus, after listening to grenade-throwing senior immortal's words, Amai was extremely moved. As expected, senior immortal is a man who sees the big picture. Huaxiao Alliance hadn't chosen the wrong person. Actually, Huaxiao Alliance already had plans to invest in the cultivation forum to begin with. When we heard that senior immortal wanted to establish a sect, and with the head of state's personal approval, this matter naturally fell into place. So that's how it is. But Brother Amai, 2 billion immortal gold is a bit much. Ha ha ha. Perfected cultivator, please don't decline. Our investment of 2 billion immortal gold won't be paid in one go, but will be divided into 5 installments. After the first installment, it will depend on perfected cultivator's ability to run the sect. If the sect fails, the subsequent investment may have to be put on hold. Perfected cultivator, I need to make this clear first. Of course. Brother Amai's words put my mind at ease. Grenade-throwing senior immortal nodded and said, dividing the investment into installments was indeed a more reasonable choice. Grenade-throwing senior immortal was very confident in his sex operation, but he didn't want to cheat other people. While 2 billion immortal gold was a huge investment, the sect was only at the initial stage of construction, after all, and didn't need so much money. There were many aspects that needed to be adjusted before the budget could be determined. When the time came, he wouldn't be able to circulate such a large sum of money to expand the economy, and it would really be a waste of this investment. But if it was divided into 5 installments, grenade-throwing senior immortal was very confident that this investment would be used appropriately. To tell you the truth, perfected cultivator, Huaxiao Alliance actually originally planned to invest 2 billion immortal gold, grenade-throwing senior immortal, then why did it rise to 2 billion? Ah my, didn't we just get fined 800 million, grenade-throwing senior immortal and Wang Ling, has perfected cultivator thought about the specific date for the sect's establishment and announcement? Ah my asked. Of course, next Tuesday is an auspicious day. Grenade-throwing senior immortal, I've already ordered people to complete the overall plan for the sect, and a lot of the facilities have already been set up using the model spell. When the time comes, we just need to move the model onto the ground and cast the spell, and the sect will be established in an instant. That day will also be the day our General Office of Strategic Deception will be established. This is a big deal. After I go back this time, I'll definitely inform Huaxiao Alliance to get in touch. Once Perfected Cultivator has confirmed the specific time for Tuesday, you can let me know, and I'll send out hero invitations to all the major light forces in the name of the General Office of Strategic Deception. Let them witness the birth of this new sect together. Can I send out hero invitations? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had no idea this could be done. Of course you can. I said resolutely. Logically speaking, sending out hero invitations to the light forces requires Huaxiao Alliance's approval, which takes 1 to 2 months. But Perfected Cultivator's sect is now in an alliance with Huaxiao Alliance, so the process can naturally be very simple. In that case, thank you, Brother Mai. That's easy. Mai waved his hand. Also, I need to emphasize that Perfected Cultivator can't directly say that this investment is from Huaxiao Alliance, but from a joint investment of private companies. I'll compile a list of the relevant investors and send it to Perfected Cultivator. Who are these private companies? These private companies were established by the children of the 10 generals through their own hard work and sweat, and are also light forces. The situation outside is tense right now, please understand, Perfected Cultivator. Alright. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Brother Mai looked at each other and smiled, instantly understanding each other. That's right, Perfected Cultivator, do we need special guests for the sex establishment? If you do, Perfected Cultivator, feel free to point them out. On your behalf, we can call all the big shots of the light forces, including the sect leader. We do need guests, but wouldn't that be too high profile? I don't need many people, just 10. Just 10 people. There are millions of light forces, and Perfected Cultivator only needs 10 people, that's really too low-key. As expected of Perfected Cultivator. Which 10 do you want? Tell me about it. Are the 10 generals free? Chapter 800. It was the evening of August 6th on Sunday in the 15th week of the semester. The investment in Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's new General Office of Strategic Deception sect had officially been signed at the Midnight Dining Hall, branch opened by Boss Tan's younger brother. The total investment amount was 2 billion immortal gold, and would be divided into 5 installments of 400 million each to be transferred to the General Office of Strategic Deception's bank account for the sect's construction. That night, the Green Sect Enterprise Investment Committee, or simply the Green Investment Committee for short, announced the news on its official website. This news was also announced on the official website, and for a moment, hundreds of thousands of light sects in Huaxiao Nation were shaken. No one could have imagined that a newly established sect would actually have so much power to attract such a large amount of angel investment. This had already broken the Green Investment Committee's investment history. The largest investment it had pulled in the last time was 8 billion, but this was only in ordinary Huaxiao currency. It couldn't compare to 400 million immortal gold at all. 100 million immortal gold was equivalent to 40 billion, 400 million immortal gold was equivalent to 160 billion, which was 20 times more than what the Green Investment Committee had invested in the second place. What kind of power was this? Light Force sects were divided into 5 classes: Sky, Earth, Black, Yellow, and Earth. A sect's class was assessed at the time of its construction, which was called a preliminary assessment. The preliminary assessment was based on the sect's core members' lineup and battle strength, the sect leader's status and influence in the cultivation circle, as well as the sect's overall construction and economic strength in the early stages. After the sect was established, Huaxiao Alliance would conduct a fair assessment of the sect's disciple recruitment and operating standards each year, based on the sect's date of establishment and the sect's performance. Based on this preliminary assessment, the sect's rating would be raised or lowered. That night, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's General Office of Strategic Deception's preliminary assessment was also released by Huaxiao Alliance, Sky Level 3rd Class Sect, a Sky Level sect right off the bat, and a 3rd Class one at that. This preliminary assessment shocked everyone in the Light Force circle. Perhaps a lot of people who didn't understand this assessment wouldn't have any idea, but if they compared it with the ratio, it was quite shocking. There were 320,000 registered legal light forces in Huaxiao Nation, of which 95% were black, yellow and earth-level sects, 3% were earth-level sects, and only 2% were sky-level sects. According to this ratio, among the more than 6,000 sky-level sects, there were less than 20 sects that were ranked 5th or higher. Most of the sky-level sects were 7th, 8th, and 9th grade sections. Among them, the competition between the heaven-rank 9th rank sects was the fiercest. If they were not careful, they might drop to the earth rank in the second year's assessment. Therefore, the birth of a sky-level sect had to go through a historical evaluation. Currently, the top 20 sky-level sects in the records all had sect histories of hundreds or even thousands of years. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's new sect, which had just been established, had actually been assessed as sky-level class 3. A lot of people paled at the sight of such a formidable starting strength. Many of the big shots of the light forces started to investigate the investors behind their sections. In the end, according to the Green Investment Commission, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's sect was a joint venture. Furthermore, these joint venture companies were involved in various industries and had very wide connections. It was actually very difficult to investigate them all at once. There were even some low-key companies who usually didn't appear in the news and didn't have any gossip about them. They were the kind of companies that made money in silence. Even the bosses of these companies were very low-key, and their names were actually very unfamiliar. All of this was naturally thanks to Ah Mai. He had already achieved his goal. Sky level class 3. Senior Immortal is too strong. And he managed to pull in so many big shots to invest in him. After seeing the news in the chat group, Dharmaraja sent out a series of emojis. Salyenjinran, Senior Immortal is awesome. Ajua, Senior Immortal is awesome. Daoist Guang, Senior Immortal is awesome. Loopy Toad, Senior Immortal is awesome. Immortal Toya, Senior Immortal is awesome. Little Silver, Grenade throwing is awesome. Wei Ji, congratulations, Senior Immortal. Fang Xing, the formation is off, OCD is so uncomfortable. Wang Ling, it's mainly because Brother Ling's fame has spread far and wide that the investment this time went very smoothly. Grenade throwing Senior Immortal was very modest. To be honest, even he himself had never expected this investment to go so smoothly. Everything had simply gone so smoothly that it was unimaginable. Apart from his many years of accumulation and planning, the person he should be most grateful to was actually Wang Ling. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal wasn't a fool, and he was well aware of this. While he had a wide network of contacts, how could they compare to this Brother Ling of his? Daoist Guang might be able to pull in investments for him because of Wang Ling, and a large part of the reason why these big shots had responded to his sect's call for investments was also because of this. Speaking seriously, I just read the group announcement. If Senior Immortal has confirmed that the sect will be officially established next Tuesday, then we have to take precautions accordingly. Salyenjinran said, tonight, the Green Investment Committee and Huaxiao Alliance have both made announcements, and the Light Force Circle has been greatly shaken. Senior Immortal has sent out hero invitations, and naturally there will be friends who sincerely wish him well. But sometimes, when there's a comparison, people will be jealous. There are already a lot of people investigating the investor behind Senior Immortal. That's fine, just let them investigate. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal laughed. The biggest manipulator in this situation was Huaxiao Alliance, and it would be very difficult to investigate Huaxiao Alliance, but on the day of the sect's official opening, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal thought that even if he didn't say anything, as long as the 10 generals showed up, the Light Force sect bigwigs would be well aware of it. But in the group, only Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal himself, Wang Ling and Daoist Guang, who had been responsible for setting up the bridge back then, knew about Huaxiao Alliance's investment. Because of the need to keep it confidential, this matter couldn't be made public for the time being, including the core members who didn't know about it. Since they didn't understand, a lot of people in the group would naturally be worried. You can't let your guard down. Everyone, don't worry. I prepared myself for any eventuality. Everyone, please conserve your energy and get ready to witness the opening ceremony of our General Office of Strategic Deception next Tuesday, August 8th. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sent a fist salute and a cheering emoji, and then suddenly remembered that there was something else he hadn't said. Oh, that's right. After discussing it with Brother Ling will be changing his Daoist name to join the sect as a visiting official and leader of the sect's recreation hall. Ling Jinren's new Daoist name. What is it? A lot of people asked. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch, this is Brother Ling's new Daoist name. Everyone, quickly write it down in your notebooks. Chapter 801. For a moment, the establishment of the new sect made all the light forces nervous. That night, many sky-level sects received invitations from Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal to join the new sect. In many people's view, this was a show of strength, as if he was using his actions to tell everyone that the new sect wasn't afraid of any challenge. It was rare to see a sect established with such grandeur. In the history of the famous heavenly sects, the Reliance sect was the one with the most momentum. However, most new sects were established with the feeling of having three fires burning in them. Thus, Reliance sect's reputation was the most resounding in the first and second years of its establishment. Later, as the sect leader, Patriarch Reliance went to set up a school affiliated with the sect, became its headmaster, and began to work in the education industry. Patriarch Reliance was a smart man. He understood the principle that a tall tree attracts the wind easily attracts trouble. It was precisely because of this that Patriarch Reliance, in the 2 years since the founding of the sect, had deliberately suppressed its power. It could be said that he had a tacit understanding to maintain the balance between the heaven-class sects of the Light faction. The full name of the Sky Light Alliance was the Sky Level Sect Light Alliance Exchange Committee. This was a non-governmental organization set up by sky-level sects at or above the 5th level, and its nature was to manage finances. Back then, the Sky Light Alliance had been established to deal with the cash flow problem of sects at or above the 5th level. The 5th level of a sky-level sect was a watershed, and to reach it required at least 100 or even 1,000 years of foundation. Many sects that had reached the 5th level would basically run into a cash flow problem in the short term, which was why the Sky Light Alliance had been established. Thus, sky-level sects at or above the 5th level were now huddling together for warmth, just so that their level wouldn't drop so easily. This was a little like the level jams in games. Some players who were good at playing would deliberately form groups of jams and organize actors in high-level games to maintain their own levels. In fact, this phenomenon had been going on for a long time. Unfortunately, whether it was the balance of power or the Sky Light Alliance, it was directly broken the night Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal announced the establishment of his new sect. As of today, there were already 17 sects above the 5th level that had joined the Sky Light Alliance, accounting for 80% of the total. Of the 4 that hadn't joined, one of them was a first-rank sect, the Immortal Palm Tree sect. Behind the Immortal Palm Tree sect was the Huaguo Water Curtain Group. This was a subsidiary sect of the Huaguo Water Curtain Group, and its main business was nurturing various kinds of alchemists. As for the remaining 3 sects, one of them was a level 3 sect, the Fighting Horse sect. This was a subsidiary sect of the Shao clan. This sect operated a legal horse betting ring. The other was a level 2 sect, the Thousand Beasts sect. This sect's main business was to raise spiritual beasts. The head of this sect was also an acquaintance of Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Crying Old Immortal. This was the vice president of the Pet Trainers Guild. In fact, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had already known Wei Ji before he had met him. The last third-class sect was naturally Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's General Office of Strategic Deception. A long time ago, the number of sky-level light sects above the 5th level had been maintained at 20. Now that a sky-level 3rd level sect had suddenly appeared out of nowhere, the first to feel threatened were the light forces that had joined the Sky Light Alliance. Most of those who didn't join the alliance had backers behind them, so they disdained joining the alliance at all. The problem was that no one knew if their own sects would fall after grenade-throwing senior immortals' new sect was established. Thus, that night, the 17 sects in the Sky Light Alliance gathered their brains and strength and began to analyze and investigate the nature of the General Office of Strategic Deception. How powerful were 17 sky-level sects above the 5th level? For the time being, they still couldn't find out which force was behind grenade-throwing senior immortals' new sect, but they had already thoroughly investigated the core members of the organization. More than 10 bigwigs were sitting in the Sky Light Alliance's conference hall. They were all the leaders or deputy leaders of their sects, and had specially convened to discuss countermeasures to deal with grenade-throwing senior immortals' new sect. Because of the urgency of the situation, some of the bigwigs who were too far away to make it directly used holographic projection technology to participate in the meeting remotely. The president of the Sky Light Alliance was Liu Yuming, the leader of a 4th-class sect called Cthulhuism Society. Although Cthulhuism Society didn't sound like a proper sect, it was in fact a very proper and legal one. Its members mainly collected statues or figurines of evil gods from all over the world. These crudely made figurines and sculptures often hid rare resources or even ancient scrolls of secret techniques. This was because a long time ago, there had been a time when the practice of sealing secret techniques in ugly sculptures was popular. They would break down and analyze these statues and figurines of evil gods, and finally resell the treasures they obtained at a high price. At the same time, this leader of Cthulhuism Society was also a cosplayer. Today, Liu Yuming was cosplaying a character called Bubble Teapot. Sitting in the president's chair, Liu Yuming had a sharp look in his eyes. Everyone, we're facing a huge challenge right now, and it's a critical time of life and death. This new sect is coming at us aggressively. What do you think? This new sect isn't simple. My suggestion is to try and see if we can rope them in first. A sect leader of a 5th-class sect said, "This great death-courting senior isn't simple. I heard that he was able to escape death from evil sword god back then, so he definitely has an expert behind him. As for the other core members of the sect, none of them are simple characters. Salyan Jinren, who's known as the ex-boyfriend killer, Immortal Toya, the successor of the Thunder Clan, Lightning Dharmaraja, and even that director Zhua, who's been in the limelight recently, have all joined as part of the inspection team." That's right, this kind of lineup is unusual. Speaking up to this point, many of the people present sighed endlessly. The sect leader of a 5th-class sect went on to say, "Of course, what worries me the most is that Crispy Noodle's true monarch, who we haven't been able to find a single clue even with the combined strength of our 17 sections. I don't know if it's because I'm ignorant and inexperienced, but I've never heard anything about this Taoist name before. This great death-courting senior has always been cautious, and would never recruit someone he doesn't know. It's a little unusual for him to join out of nowhere." "Could he be a sect manager?" someone asked. Sect managers were a profession that had become popular in recent years, and were mainly responsible for improving the overall economic situation of a sect after settling in. However, there had always been a vacancy in the manager circle, and many sects couldn't find anyone. "I'm familiar with the sect manager circle, but I've never heard of such a person." You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.